Hello, we're live. Hooray! Everybody,
Evening,
welcome
everybody.
to a brand new episode of All Caps. I'm Isaac Andersons, one of your hosts, one of the hosts, author of Song of Bones. I'm joined by Tim McKay, the smasher of keyboards, author of Fall of Self Andrea. And our very, very, very special guest today is Tyler Kirk, author of The Vitamin Kid. Vitamin Kid. Thank you for joining us.
And the arsonist.
Yes, and
Yes, the arsonist. Yes. Is it just called the arsonist?
It's Children of Strife, the arsonist. Beginning
Children
of
of Strife,
series.
So, are there other bad children? You have the arsonist child. You have
There
like
might
the petty theft child.
There might be. There's definitely more than just an arsonist in the book. For sure.
How many books are you aiming? Do you have in mind so far for the series?
I only really originally planned on doing 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just like the good number for a series. I think
after that's 3, the happy number.
Yeah, after 3, you start to kind of trail off into like Wheel of Time and Harry Potter, and
don't start knocking my favorite series now.
I'm not saying they're bad. They're long series.
It's true. Very true.
Yeah, I don't know. I was originally planning on 3, but who knows? I don't know. Maybe it could be a 4th.
There. And we'll say hi really quick to everyone in the chat. Thanks for showing up. We've got no one from X yet, but everyone on YouTube, thanks so much for dropping in.
Thanks for coming along, YouTube. You mean a lot to me.
Yeah.
Mike Momlin is here.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, we got Shane, we got EL, we got, I can't read that.
Vredesburg.
Okay, yeah. 58.
Or V-Red.
M song.
Vred.
Woohoo. We got RH in the house. Yeah, look at that. That's the kind of enthusiasm we want.
Yes. Someday we'll do a live show in front of a live audience. It'll just be these people.
Yeah.
We'll throw like
all of these people.
just these people. We'll throw like rolls at them.
These days, it's funny. We started and we reached out to a few people, and even before we could, the moment you announce that you're starting something like this, people very quickly drop in your DMs and start asking, and that's awesome. So that's probably the easiest way to get on. Reach out. Because we do have a lot of people asking. Jamie there, J.A. Bryden. There's someone else who's going to be on the show. EL's going to be on the show. I mean, it's wild. So many people very quickly, start asking, and we're all for it. That's what we're here for.
Support. Yeah, that's super cool.
We will not say no.
Sorry?
We will not say no to any guest. Unless you're like dead, like speaking to us from across the plane, then we might still have you on then.
I think we have a no book marketer. If we get any AI book marketing requests to join, that might be a problem.
Yeah. That'd be kind of fun still.
I mean, on the flip side, that would be, So can you tell us?
We really talk to anybody.
Do you use
I think that's what it comes down to.
That's what I want to ask them. But I think that's it. So anyone, thank you so much for showing up. Everyone on X now and everyone on YouTube. Happy to have you here. And anyways, let's dive into a little bit of fun with Tyler here. So I mean, first and foremost, Tyler, I think we've both been on X for roughly the same amount of time. You said you joined in, I believe it was May 2 years ago, 2-ish?
Yeah, 2 years ago, coming up on my 2-year anniversary.
That's wild. Yeah, I got my 1-year badge, I guess last May, and I that was a bit of a
for real
a wake up call. Yeah. Did you? I mean, yeah. We've been on the same amount of time, so Anyways, that 1-year badge, I think that was a fast year. Social media is a heck of a place.
I joined Twitter 2011. It says.
What?
I've been on for a long, long time. Well, my dad was always into tech, so usually when the tech thing is like cool and it's going to last a long time, my dad knows about it. We get on it.
I avoided social media as long as I could. I probably should have started on things like Twitter and Instagram and stuff a lot earlier, but I just didn't. I don't know. I was never a social media person, I guess.
I was the same. I mean, I resisted until I had a reason to be on. That's
exactly. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Yeah.
So how have you found it? How have you found it since? How's your experience now that you've bit the bullet? How has your 2-year experience been so far?
I can't bring myself to do TikTok
I tried.
or
Yeah,
Facebook
no.
stuff.
I'll probably try again later.
I've found that I'm a little biased because I wasn't part of X when it was Twitter, and so I don't have any personal experience of what it used to be like.
Mm.
So like, there's things that I like about X, and people are like, "Well, no, that sucks. It used to be much better." 6 years
Yeah.
ago, whatever.
Yeah.
I haven't noticed very much change. There's been some like technical things have changed, but
Yeah.
I see the same kind of stuff I've seen for years.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I always knew what Twitter was. It's always been. I mean, it's old. It's been around for a long time, but X, not so much. I don't know. I think X is cool.
It
I
is
think
cool.
it's of all the social media platforms, I do think it's like the most genuine, like the realist,
Yeah.
I guess, in terms of
Well,
like human connection.
The old people
But-
go to Facebook.
Yep.
The slightly younger people are now on X, but all the kids are on TikTok now.
Yeah.
Soon,
I get asked.
X will be the boomer platform.
I think it already kind of is. We're just in denial because I get younger people, younger than us, like the Zoomers, always like, "Why aren't you on TikTok? Why aren't you on Book Talk?" I'm like, I don't dance. I don't know what I would do on that platform.
Yeah. I see some people, kind of within our range on TikTok doing extremely well. And I just, how did you cross that impossible canyon between our, generations? It's just, and even Instagram I'm on and I enjoy it. I now enjoy it more than I ever did because I actually have something to show. Same principle, right? But it's even that is still kind of a whole other language to me. Twitter, at least you're just typing. It's just writing, and everyone's kind of there with the same. You go there for the short punchiness, and back and forth.
What I like about X is I like the long form writing. I like that you can have conversations with people. You can shit post and do memes like you would on like TikTok or Reddit or 4chan or something, but you can also just have meaningful, like intellectually stimulating conversations with people too.
Yeah.
Depending on the context, which I don't think there's another social media platform that really offers that.
No. You've got like Threads and Blue Sky that have tried, and
I was on Blue Sky for all of 3 minutes.
I have not given Blue Sky a fair chance yet, but I've been asked to. Well, maybe I don't know. X is where I've met a lot of really cool people, and so
all of the board game people I followed are now on Blue Sky, so my feed is all out of board games now.
Fair. I mean, that's not a bad thing.
Except for one dude. Hey, I love a good board game. Don't knock my board games.
What, Twilight Imperium type board games or like
yes, I like that. I won last time we played. I tricked my brother to let me win.
I like this.
It's a long game. I remember the first time I played Twilight Imperium. I was with some guys in a barracks room when I was in the Navy. Guy brought the game in. It had like a cat on the cover, like a space cat. I was like, it's like some Skyrim Khajiit stuff on it. And I was like, he's like, oh, we're gonna play this game. I'm like, what? He's like, just real quick. Yeah, that game lasted 6.5 hours. 6.5 hours.
Fast. That's a fast play. My goodness.
I don't have that kind of time commitment anymore.
There was a lot of Mountain Dew consumed that day. I'll leave it at
that. I bet. Gosh. Oh, man. Yeah, so tell us a bit more about, again, because it's where we met. It's where so many people are on, to talk about books and writing and to form community with authors and reviewers. And so, yeah, tell us about the book side of your Twitter, your X experience, and the good and the bad. I want to have a little fun with this because we've both had, I think, different experiences with, let's call them Twitter mobs. X mobs. I don't think it sounds good enough. So Twitter mobs.
Yeah. I'm definitely been some lessons learned. I've learned that something. I mean, I don't know. I grew up with the internet and like culture and online gaming and memes, and so
Mm.
like I learned a long time ago that sarcasm does not translate well to text form.
Yeah.
And I'm a sarcastic person, so
Hmm.
I've learned my lessons with that like you got to use it properly. You need gifs. You got to, because even emojis don't do it
Yes.
justice anymore, because one emoji means 5 things to everybody now, right? Like the sobbing emoji, people use that when they say something funny or like ironic.
Mhm.
I'm like, but that's depression. You're crying. But no, and they're like, no, I'm crying because I'm laughing so hard. It's like, but there's already an emoji that does that.
There's one for that. Yeah.
So
Not enough water in that one.
yeah, so I if there's a right GIF available, sarcasm still works, thankfully. But yeah, I've learned that that people are really passionate about certain things on X, and
Yeah.
and if you say certain words, not even intentionally, but if you type certain words into the comments of that person's post, they're going to be very upset with you because you're using certain words that they think are associated with a certain ideology. And
Mm.
now you're on their shit list, and they're going to repost you, and there's going to be like 100 people coming after you. And then it's ironic because you didn't, like in my case, there's been times where I don't mean to be, to like piss them off, just talking. I'm aware that I come off on X a lot of the times probably really pretentious because I tend to use a certain vocabulary, and those words are, for whatever reason, I guess, associated with some kind of institution.
Mm.
Yeah, like I think you witnessed one time when I was talking with a good friend in the
I
fellowship,
witnessed.
Stephen Conway. We were having a talk because he wanted to know like just the opinion of people, like just the general public, their opinion. Like, what do you think is the responsibility of a writer, not an author, a writer?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, all we can really do to answer that, if you're going to be genuine and not like silly about it, is look at like history. Like, what have their roles always been in society, right? And so I brought that up, some historical context, but then where I screwed up is I tried to bring it into like today's time frame, which is we're like in a postmodern era, whether people want to be in one or not. Like that's just where we are, right? We're in like a postmodern era of humanity right now, and I just shared my opinion of what I believe a writer's responsibility is in a postmodern society. And the language that I use, I learned my lesson. It was poor choice because I tried to use like words that I thought would like say a lot with few words kind of approach. So I'm going to use big words, right, that have a lot more meaning. And those words, I was not aware at the time that there's a lot of people on X that those words mean you're like equal communism or something.
Yeah.
Use the communist words.
Well, the
I
funny
was
thing
throwing
is,
around commie words.
We've both, we were talking about this before coming on, that you come out of certain institutions with language you've picked up because it's what everyone uses, and academia, you really can't come out of the humanities in most universities these days without picking up certain language. And you go somewhere like Twitter that is very different, and that language
different.
They recognize that language as code for where you've come from, whatever your stance is. So yeah, and I remember seeing that post, and I didn't even have to look at the comments, and I thought, oh boy, this is going to be good.
Yeah, I think that was the most like interactions I've ever had with someone like per second on the internet. And I've played some online games where you've got people that are pissed at you, and I've been, I've dwelled in Discords and Reddit pages and stuff. I've never experienced that though. There was it was because I was explaining that a writer should always challenge like a dominant narrative, and that that idea threw a lot of people into like a frenzy, because they kind of took it as like, oh, Marxism, like it's like, no, that's not what I mean.
Well, the tricky thing too with social media is like X and other platforms are no exception to this. So this is by no means just X, but for the sake of the algorithm and engagement, strong opinions draw attention. So it's not just what you said, it's also those who reposted you. They saw an opportunity to show their strong opinion in a way that would appeal to their audience.
Oh, and they did.
It was an opportunistic moment for them, and they took full advantage at your expense, which you brace for when you get on these platforms. I don't know. I feel like I've a thick skin. I'll put it this way: if I didn't have a thick skin before social media,
definitely do now.
Certainly developing one. Yeah.
I've always had thick skin. I wasn't mad. I mean, I tried to elaborate with everybody that was upset and explain to them. And people that have known me for a long time, some of them might even be watching this, know that I can be really opinionated and pretentious at times, but I can also be really sincere, and I will try to like talk through something with people until we come to an understanding.
That doesn't go well on Twitter either.
It didn't. There's a lot of lessons I've been learning, and there's just some people that you're not going to be able to reason with or reconcile with because they're very dyed in the wool with certain things.
The worst is when you try to bow out, which I usually do. If I can tell things are just going to be, I refuse to engage in comment wars. If we go past like 2 or 3 comments back and forth on an issue, I'm thinking you're probably not going to change your mind because of something I say here, and I'm freaking busy. That's not my cup of tea. So I'll usually kind of back off after a while. The worst thing is when that person then goes to every other comment from every other person in under your thread and now tries to rile them up. So you now have 50 notifications from this one person just trying to ruin your day.
Isn't that good for your algorithm?
Oh, not really, because they usually are being a dick, to be blunt. And so all the people who are now getting a message from this dick, they now associate that dick with you. So actually, I don't know. I find it tends to push people away from interacting with you because it just it doesn't help. It's actually the worst thing that can happen, I find.
I've had a conversation about this with so many of my like really close friends that I think there's just a lot of people that are terminally online. They're just on the internet for way too long. They care about certain things way too much. And they just, it's a shame, but I don't know.
And Mike Molman here dropping in with his 500-page limit.
Now, David Batterina down the way, he said that Reddit was the Mos Eisley of the internet. I disagree. Reddit is the giant lunch cafeteria of the internet.
The Mos Eisley of the internet.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. I was on Reddit for all of 10 seconds and just absolutely no way. That's everything I don't want to be doing on X is what that place is built for. So no way. Definitely not. Someone else called it the anti-X, I think, and
it sucks. You kind of have to be like, I feel like as a millennial nowadays, you have to be like a nomad on the internet. You have to go from one platform. We've seen so many platforms rise and then they get like infiltrated and they die, and you go on to the next one. Like, I love X, but who's to say in 2028 or something like X just becomes horrible and we all migrate to something else? I mean, you saw it with voice chat places forever. You had like Ventrilo and TeamSpeak. Now everything's Discord. You had MySpace, then you had Facebook.
Well, it's why they say, right, that it's important for us as, whatever you're doing, whether it's as an editor or an author or a narrator, anyone in this kind of book sphere, it's why it's important to have things like newsletters or to have things like communities. So we'll get to that in a second. Or Discord, or just another platform, another space that isn't controlled by an algorithm, so that you own the relationships you've built, as opposed to someone being able to come in, totally change the platform, and you lose your entire audience overnight.
Yeah, you lose. Yeah,
that'd be disaster. I mean, that's the point. And now the flip side of that is you got to start somewhere. So is people, I think, stretch themselves thin. That's the other extreme, is they get on 10 different platforms and they start an email newsletter on day one as a new author. And I think that's a bad move in my not so humble. I think I see people do that and then they complain for the next year about not having any followers because they haven't committed themselves anywhere, you know?
Yeah.
It's
I
a lot to
don't I
manage
don't
though.
I don't have a newsletter yet. I don't really know what I would tell people if I had one. Like I don't know what I would send them. It'd be like I would be like really corny if I had a newsletter. Be like, hey, thinking about you or something. Like
Yeah.
hope you're having a good month. Keep reading.
Yeah. Like that's how it would be. It just feels like more writing, more I want to commit my writing brain power, which is finite per day, to what I want to be doing, which is not writing a nonfiction newsletter. Even just once a month can stack up quick. I think power to the people who can do it, but yeah, it's tough. So let's talk about some of the positives, the really good positive stuff, because you're heavily involved with the Fellowship of the Indie Author, or yeah, Fellowship of the Indie Author. I'm saying that right?
Yeah.
What the
Yeah.
how did you
FOSHA.
say that again?
FOSHA.
OSHA, yes, yeah.
That's the Fellowship of the Indie Authors.
It's gonna take me some getting used to. The first time I heard someone say that,
Sounds Latin.
yeah, you
Sounds like
tonight.
OSHA.
OSHA. Yeah,
Yeah.
it does sound like
You're
OSHA.
gonna tell me stop working my
OSHA.
fence.
Yeah, well, I mean, communities, they only started really on X a year ago, maybe something like that. Is that right? Like, I feel like
It's
it was
newer. Yeah, I was told it was newer. But again, I don't know. I wasn't
fair.
around that long.
Yeah. So I mean, tell us about that. Tell us about how it kind of took off, how you got involved, what that's been like. Plans. Where's it going now?
Yeah. Well, like Fellowship of the Indie Author just kind of started with a people that were indie authors on X that just kept running into each other, like trying to engage with one another to fix their algorithm, to avoid all the other things that were in their feed, like politics and stuff, or really out of context, chaotic memes and stuff. And we just were constantly engaging with one another and talking to each other. And we're kind of like, we need to just like create a community to sort of create like a central point. Like we joked originally because a lot of the people in this original group, there's like 12 of us. They're all gamers, and they were all kind of like, we need to make a guild, and so we looked into the community thing because we thought, well, if we have a community, then you can click on the community on X and then you can just read community posts, kind of like a guild chat or something if you're playing like a video game. And it started off as that, and then all of a sudden it went from being 12 people to like 40 people, like over one night. And now it's over 1,000, and it's only been a couple of months.
Which is mind blowing,
Yeah, and it's very active. It's grown much. It grew faster than I ever thought it would. It's been really positive. There hasn't been a lot of negativity or drama or anything crazy. I mean, our only one big rule in the community is to just try to really limit and avoid doing self promo. It's really just wholesome and just fun. Just a community of like-minded people. And it's not all indie authors. I mean, there's a lot of people that are in it that don't write, but they love to beta read. They love to paint. They love like drawing. It's kind of just become more of like an art hub than just an indie author group. People are really cool. Like people will exchange work with one another. Some people have gotten together and played like video games together. It's just become just a really cool community of people that are interested in storytelling of some kind. And when the website went live, that was big too, because we got that up and running really fast thanks to Steven's brilliance, and the website got so much traffic that at one point we thought it was going to go down.
Wow. Yeah, because I remember that started very quickly after
we weren't expecting a lot of people to use it. But it was really cool.
Well, we were talking before really quick just about the website. We were talking about, one of the ways, book scammers will get you on in DMs and they'll comment under every author's every post whenever they get the chance. But the other way for a while that people were getting you was by just having websites you had to pay for to get your book listed alongside other authors. And everyone was doing this, and they were wasting their money. And it was just a way for scammers to find you. So it's really refreshing to see an author-made place for where we can group together and get our books alongside each other out there, for search engines to find easier, grouping us with, like-minded indie authors and artists, as you said. Like that's huge. That's a big thing. I think it's why so many people leapt at the opportunity.
Yeah, and there's been some people that have been like, well, what is the offer that like Goodreads doesn't offer or something? And it's like, well, that's a good point. I mean, we're not going to be able to compete with Goodreads or something, but we're not trying to. That's not really the goal or the point. And the difference is Goodreads is just a plethora of all things books, right? Trad and indie. Whereas this is focused on a specific community of people. This is a specific group of people. This isn't just all indie books. This is these indie books. So it's, the community's been really cool. There's a lot more attention than I thought it was going to receive initially. Because, like I said, I mean, it started off with like 12 people, and then it turned into 40. And then I thought to myself, like, oh, this will probably reach like 100 something people. And then all of a sudden it was hundreds, and now we're in the thousands. And it's been really cool.
Well, I mean, when communities started, I'm a member of a few. I've seen a lot of communities do okay. I've seen very few do well. And the ones I've seen that are actually big, they just seem like a cesspool of people marketing to each other. And no one's actually reading, because it's even worse than those old writers' lifts. That's what a lot of these communities became. So I love that this one's different. That's another big advantage.
Yes. Yeah. So we definitely limit that. There's no rules against, like, if you want to promote someone else's work, right? Like, if I want to post in the community, like, hey, I just finished reading Russell's book, or I just finished reading Tim's book, it was awesome. You could do that, but we try to avoid self-promo. Of all kinds, not just books, not, hey, I'm going live on Twitch, come watch me play Oblivion. Like, we try to limit all of that stuff in that context. We've allowed for places for people to do that in the Discord. And one of the things we're still talking about is we're aware there's a lot of people that are annoyed that, in the community feed, there's a lot of engagement bait questions that sometimes people bring up. And like, what's your favorite vegetable? Like, that has nothing to do with anything that this community is about.
It's bad enough when it's on people's profiles, but do you have to put it in the community?
Yeah, so we try to reduce that. We try to, like, tell people, like, hey, come on, like, nobody, like, someone will post something like, what would you rather ride, a skateboard or a scooter? And it's like, that has nothing to do with this community. Like, put that on your personal profile. If you're not getting engagement from on your personal profile, it's because nobody gives a shit. Nobody wants to answer that. It's silly.
Well, some of them seem to get really well. I think we were joking, but some of them actually do get strangely good engagement in that community. But I think it's because half the people responding are just trolling the heck out of it.
I was gonna say it's because they like to raid each other with out of context gifs, and I'm guilty of it. Like, if I see somebody post some weird question, like, if you woke up and it was 1982 again, what would you do? Like, I don't know.
Again?
Yeah, again. Or
I would say, why did this happen again?
Yeah, so I don't know. We're working on that. It's kind of hard. A lot of the people that help run the community are not big fans of policing people, but
I like the troll approach. I mean, you said earlier that social media and X, like all the rest, not a good play. Well, it's not. It's hard to pull off sarcasm because it doesn't translate to text very well. Although I love it, I think we both do, clearly, and so does Isaac. Just because I know Isaac, so we're all very sarcastic people. I think that's safe to say. You're in good company. But what X is good for is trolling. It is just and more than any other platform, X is the place where trolling thrives, and
it's the only platform you don't get banned for doing it anymore.
True.
All the other you'll get banned so fast if you try to troll people on Reddit. If you do a hot take and try to troll people on Instagram, even, you'll get banned. Like
fair.
it's the only platform that doesn't. It's like the Mos Eisley thing. Like, what's his name was saying?
David Badwina, yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's kind of what motivated my the thing about, I think one of the first Steve posts I ever made was about was actually a troll. So it's the only really specific one I ever did, because I made a post uh and I forget what it was, but the person was really annoyed, but it was sarcasm. So I said it was a joke, and that's what the emoji was for. I tried to make it as clear as possible, and the person was so offended. So I said it was sarcasm, to which their response was, sarcasm is a sin. Sarcasm is evil. You should always be truthful. And I think you are a very, they were just, they started, preaching at me. So I immediately made a Steve. That was, I think, one of my first Steve posts was
infamous
sarcasm
Steve.
is and that's how Steve was born.
Thus Steve was born.
Their name was not Steve. I was intentional about that, but I made sure I found a way to make fun of it, because I thought it was such a dumb thing to say.
You've forever ruined that name for me.
I'm so sorry. I'm not at all, but I'm sorry to my Steve friends. I don't know a single Steve I don't like. So that's
a lot of
Uncle Steve.
Say again?
I got an Uncle Steve.
Me too. I have an Uncle Steve. He's one of my favorite people on the planet. He doesn't know I do this. One of these days I have to tell him.
Well, Steve is such a...
My goal is to make him famous.
Steve is such like a... it's not a bland name, but it's like a fade to the background kind of name.
Yeah.
Fade to the background kind of. It's an NPC name.
It is. It's kind of an NPC. It's an NPC kind of. It doesn't really say anything. Steve doesn't mean anything. I mean, Steven means something, but Steve doesn't mean anything.
Someone's watching this name Steve, and they're just heartbroken right now.
Steve, listen, it's all we need NPCs for this all to work. You got to do your part, man.
My goal is, it's okay. No, I do. I need to start. If I'm ever going to do merch, it's not going to be book stuff. It's going to be Steve. I want, sarcasm is a sin t-shirt. Absolutely. And is Steve married to Karen? That is the goal. The end goal is, I'm sorry to my Steve friends, but I want Steve to be the Karen of bad book takes, specifically, but obviously just bad takes in general.
It'd be really funny to walk around in a
Steve,
t-shirt that says sarcasm is a sin, Steve. And if earnest people walk up to you and go, who is Steve? Is he a guru?
Well, but that's what I get all the time, genuinely, is people saying, so who is Steve? Can you tell me who Steve is? I'll get DM, I'll get comments. It is a flood of people, no matter how many times I joke. Usually my go-to answer is just some guy, and I'll leave it at that. It's so funny. But every once in a while, in a DM, usually I'll say, oh, no, it's just it's a catch-all for bad takes, and that's it. And then people will be like, okay, so you're not singling anyone out. And I'll say, no, I would never do that. But this guy, anyways. Yeah, so Twitter is used well, and like X communities. I think you are really, breaking new territory there. But the point is, there's plenty of room for positive, fun interaction on these platforms done well,
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, I mean, I didn't foster that, but I didn't discount it either. So sorry, Lucas. Yeah,
I know.
Anyway.
It's been like the fellowship community though has been really cool. I hope to see it blossom into something even bigger and more extraordinary. There's been a lot of really cool stuff though there. As people that are involved in it know, there currently a bunch of people in the community came together to work on an anthology together. They all agreed on a theme for the anthology. Everyone proposed ideas and they all voted. They didn't like my theme. My theme was it should all be based around like fan fiction for the rock band Kiss. They didn't like my idea. I don't know why. I mean, you have think about.
I mean, marketing that's easy. Everyone who loves Kiss is gonna buy that book.
Yeah, it would have been limitless options.
And if Kiss finds out about it, they're gonna track you down because they don't want you writing this stuff because it's true.
It's fan fiction though. It's just like
listen.
Kiss.
The way that Kiss worked, if you write about Kiss, it becomes true. It's just like Jumanji or something. It's some kind of crazy magic. Whatever you write about Kiss will come true.
Kiss goes to Cairo. Maybe they go into a pyramid. They find a mummy.
You're making this real now. If you go too far, you could seriously hurt the KISS members.
Gosh.
But
How many-
they ended up agreeing on a theme that I won't like divulge too much about because they wrote their stories. They're publishing an anthology.
Has
through,
it been
through
announced
the
yet
community.
officially, or
This would probably be considered the first official
Ah.
announcement.
So we're breaking some
Nice.
ground
It's
here.
I've been I am not part of the anthology. I
Yeah.
have way too much on my plate, but I watched. I kind of helped facilitate and observe it all come together. And it was really cool.
I watched them fix the car. I didn't
Yes,
fix the car. I watched them fix the car.
Yeah, I stood back and watched them change the tires and stuff.
How many authors did you say roughly are actually involved in it?
Sheesh, I could find an exact count. I want to say
We're
like a
getting
dozen.
all the exclusives.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious because I've been involved with. I've never. No, I guess technically I have twice. So I've technically published with, particularly one, and then more. I organized the other. I was like a sub editor in chief for one, or I was a co-editor in chief for one, and then I published in another. And like those add up quick, depending on the size of the stories. I don't know if there's a word limit, but it's a very fun experience.
There's about a dozen people.
Okay, that's a good number. Yeah.
And the goal is they're just kind of going through and filling things out. I mean, honestly, the person who really led the charge on this was Alan Knight. He's a phenomenal person in the community. He was the spearhead of the whole operation.
We should have him on the show. It'd be fun to
Totally-
talk about.
Totally should.
Making an anthology. What that's like, working with all the different authors.
That'd be a lot of fun.
And I got to say, he did a really phenomenal job. I couldn't have done it any better. And that anthology is being put together, so we'll eventually be able to put that out. And then every month we like to do like a friendly competition. We've done like flash fiction contests. This month we did a poetry contest, and the winner of it, I think someone rose the stakes and said that whoever won, they were going to gift them a Scrivener like a login code. I don't know if you know what Scrivener is.
Yeah.
So
do you use? We'll get to your books soon, but do you use Scrivener or something like that?
I do now, thanks to a close ex-friend, and just close friend that I would consider family. They gifted me one.
Very cool.
I had tried to use it but in the past, and I just wasn't really sold on it. But then they've been using it for their work, and they convinced me. They showed me all the stuff they were doing. They were like, "Oh my god, you gotta do this. You gotta get Scrivener, man." They sent me a code, and I've been using it ever since then. But yeah, I mean, we've been trying to just keep the community, alive, just making it fun, interesting thing for people to do. Like, there's a reason why we don't have a meme channel in the Discord. We don't want it to just turn into just like nonsense. Although, and I'm guilty of part, sometimes our general chat will get a little off topic.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm part of a few Discords like that do have that meme channel, and that makes no sense to me because either one, everyone ends up just going there, and that's the only place people interact to share memes, and that's what the group becomes about. Or it actually kills the main chat because the occasional meme tends to make it even more. It makes it more fun in the actual chat. Why wouldn't you just leave them there? Just don't overdo it. Right?
Yeah. Well, and it just invites the behavior too.
Exactly. Yeah, it makes that more what the group is about than the actual reason you got together. Yeah.
One thing I don't like seeing in Discord groups, this might make people mad at me.
Oh, controversy.
I don't like it when there's a channel called Pets.
I
immediately tell it, don't ever notify me of this channel ever.
Pets channel?
I don't care. I don't care about your pets. I'm sorry. I'm glad you got your pet.
If we had a pets channel, it would be Russell's lizards and my two-legged Chiweenie dog every day.
Yeah, I mean, pets are awesome, but yeah, no, I get it. On Discord groups, it gets brutal. And I say that as someone who was, I technically created this snack bar group for y'all Lions, so I'm a hypocrite there because I love seeing that. Okay, Mike. Yeah. Hey, you're the one who's always getting mad at your own dog when he hops on the show. So who are you talking
Dogs are great. I loved my dog on the
to?
farm. I'm not gonna take pictures of him all the time and show everybody though.
Speaking of Russell, he's in the chat.
Yeah, I threw Russell up on earlier. Yeah.
Rumor has it that Tyler doesn't know what a ranger is. It's true. I have no idea what that word even means.
It's
Can
like
he confirm?
it's like
It's like a car, right?
yeah. It's
No,
Ford
that's a
Ranger.
Range Rover. Yeah.
It's like
There
a
you go.
Wait,
bionic
no,
eye you put on a thing and you see down
Aren't
it.
aren't Rangers those? They were like the matching costumes, but like each one was a color. What was that show called in the 90s?
Absolutely,
really
that's
popular.
right. Yes.
Power something, or like
Oh,
like
the
a red
Power
one.
Rangers.
Was that what it was called?
Power Rangers. Yeah, yeah, that's what it is. That's what does the word ranger actually mean?
It has a few different
They're
meanings.
power, so they're more powerful versions of a normal ranger. I almost said rager. The
power levels of
Power
the
Rangers
Ranger. It's like a
versus
Dragon Ball
Kiss.
Z character.
Oh,
What if the members of Kiss became Rangers?
Oh my gosh.
We're the Kiss Rangers.
Kiss
They
Rangers.
all have their own color, but they're like weird colors.
Yeah, see, yeah, it is a car. Ford Ranger
Yeah.
truck, he says. See?
If it wasn't for when I hear the word Ranger, it's never gone directly to Power Rangers. Funny enough, it's always just gone to Aragorn. You know.
No,
so
yeah, no, I
Strider.
know. I'm messing with Russell.
No,
'cause
I
he's
know, but I
messing
mean,
with me.
I never read the R.A. Salvatore ones, so I feel like there's a more specific reference there that I'm just like, no, it's not even. No, I'll go to Strider.
Well, there is the
reference-
home on the range.
You're killing me, Isaac. Okay, speaking of, so getting into the actual the meat of what we're all here for, the books and the things that make us fall in love with them. Well, quick note too. Speaking of, we'll maybe talk about favorites in a minute, but I love that you have Lord of the Rings above your head there. So speaking of Strider, before I forget, you literally have his sword over your shoulder, which is even cooler.
Yes, pull that out. Everyone wants to see that.
Well, it's right there.
Yeah, let me see it. I can't see it. It's flat against the wall.
Is it fastened on? Or
that's just a gray color.
You actually want me to pull it off?
Yes, I want to see the sword.
Yeah.
You can't point to an odd shape and say that's a sword. There we go.
Yeah, we'll do a bit of a showdown here. There we go. We can show off our Lord of the Rings swords.
Oh, amazing. Check this out. I got this remote control.
Yeah, okay. I think we have you beat, Isaac. Oh man, yeah, you're not a proper nerd or author if you haven't, bought a memorabilia sword from. Thank you.
That was I got Anduril as a gift from my father when I graduated from school. It was really cool.
That's like a good graduation gift.
Yeah,
it was a pretty cool graduation gift.
I wish my dad gave me a weapon when I graduated.
Actually, I think
technically would have come in handy.
He gave you a remote.
He gave you a remote.
Yeah. This is actually my dad's webcam.
That's funny. Yeah.
There you go.
My Lord of the Rings sword was actually my graduation gift to myself after college. So
what's with the nerds graduating and getting swords?
Well, you got to reward yourself somewhere, and it's either a good bottle of scotch or a sword. What else are you going to do? Or both. Actually, it was both in my case. So yeah.
I buy expensive board games. That's
okay. That counts. Ish.
What drink goes with board games? It's definitely not scotch.
No.
You could go with the red wine. You could go with there's this one called
red wine and Imperium.
I like red wine, but I don't associate that with a game at all.
I was thinking more of like rum and coke.
Not.
Yeah.
Sure, if you could be a Philistine and drink a rum and coke and play a board game, or you could enjoy life and have a nice red wine and assign action points. And
I need to do that. I need to play board games with people and drink red wine. That is not on my list.
Yeah, wow. You know what? That could actually work. That would get me into it a little bit.
And it doesn't have to be a massive game. It could be something smaller. We can go for 3 hours instead of 8.
I'm seeing some drinks here in the chat. Where it's
Mountain Dew.
Red says Mountain Dew. Mead. Mead is great. I'm very sad. Our meadery here in where I live just shut down recently.
Oh, too bad.
It was our only one too.
Howdy,
Hey,
Molly.
friends.
Yeah. We had. I think they stopped producing just this one reserve, but there was a meadery here in Ontario, and they started doing a chai mead. So they spiced
Chai
it with
mead?
chai spice, like you all cinnamon, clove, just a whole bunch of different. It was so good.
Damn.
Oh, and I can't find it anymore for whatever reason.
The meadery that we had here had a mead that was inspired by the butterbeers from Harry Potter. It was called the Butterbee mead, and it tasted really good. It had like I don't even know how to describe it, like a butterscotch flavor, like finish, but it had like marshmallow notes. It was a sweeter mead. It was definitely on the sweeter side, but it was really.
I know that they have the mead, the hog, whatever. What is it called? Butterbeer?
Butterbeers. It's like a Harry
Butterbeer.
Potter thing.
Yeah, they have it at
Yeah.
Universal up here.
That's what
Everyone
I thought of.
raves about it. Like, you gotta go to Universal, ride the rides. No, to get that beer. That's all they talk about.
All right. Well, Russell is beating us to it a little bit, but let's actually talk about books. now that we've gone from Rangers to Lord of the Rings to swords to drinks, books. Now, if you have swords, drinks, or Rangers in your books, even better. But let's let's start with the Vitamin Kid. Tell us the story there.
All right. Yeah, the Vitamin Kid is a story that I finished for my great grandfather. I'm sure a lot of people on X have probably heard me talk a lot about this because I always get asked about it. My great grandfather lived in Hollywood during the 1930s and I believe the 1920s, and he was a physical therapist for athletes and stuff. And he was a writer, I guess. It was like a hobby, maybe. I never got to meet him, Harry Kirk, but he was writing a screenplay for the Vitamin Kid. It was going to be a short film about a boxer and stuff. And he never finished it, but there was a producer that was interested in it at a time. A studio was interested in it at a time if he had ever finished it, but for some reason he never did. Like, talking with family stuff, it seems like it was related to World War II kind of breaking out, because he did
that kind
go
of
and
distracted
serve
everybody for a little bit.
Yeah, that was kind of the Great Depression kind of sucked too. But yeah, so for whatever reason, he never finished it. He left it to his son, Frank Kirk, my grandfather, and he was not a writer. He's more of an architect brain. He could physically build things, but he can't metaphorically build things, I guess. I don't know. And then none of his kids were really into that stuff, I guess. I don't know. It just kind of gave it to me when I was in junior high, and I just thought it was cool. Always took care of it and held on to it. And I told myself when I was in high school that, because I finished reading it when I was in high school, and I was like, that was really cool. I would have loved to, fill in the blanks, because that's a misconception a lot of people have. A lot of people ask me, like, well, if he started it, what did you do then? Like, how did you finish it? And I don't ever really tell them, because I don't want to make it obvious what I contributed. And then people be like, oh, well, then you must have just done the last half of the book, because he must have written it chronologically. But no, there's actually a lot of pages that were ripped out or whited out or scrapped. And there were definitely like holes throughout the whole book. And so I wanted to, honor him by finishing it for him. And I thought to myself, well, if I finish it, what am I going to do with it? Because I'm not a screenplay writer. I wouldn't even know what to do with a screenplay. Shout out to the people that know how to do that, and are good at that stuff. But I told myself, okay, if I ever write a book, like an original piece by myself, and it does decent, and there's like, okay, I can do this, then I will learn how to convert this story to a novel, and then I'll publish it. And I never originally wanted to put my name on it. But I legally had to for copyright purposes. They wouldn't let me copyright it because he's been dead for a long time. It wouldn't, they need to have like an heir. And so and I talked to his son, my grandfather, Frank Kirk, like I mentioned earlier about it. I was like, hey, do you want to be in charge of this? And he's like, no, you do it. You got it. You got it. So I'm the copyright owner and my name is on it, but it's totally not my intellectual property. It's totally his idea. I didn't publish it to like make myself look good or anything like that. It wasn't about ego. It's just like to show off like, oh, look at what I can do. It was just more like I wanted to get this story told, just get it out there. People want to give it a chance, they can. I mean, it's very
Well, in terms of size,
yeah.
so I mean, the size of a document changes so much just from formatting alone between having the words on the page and actually formatting it for a book context. So size wise, how many pages, let's say, was it, that you were looking at originally versus what is actually now in book format for us?
I got everything I could from the screenplay into this. Like I didn't change anything, even though when I was rereading it as I was converting it, there was certain language choices, nothing like racist or anything like that, but just the way certain things are described. I'm just like that. We don't describe things like that anymore, but I didn't change it because it's not my book. Yeah. I'm not saying that to like deflect blame or accountability. It's just more of like, that was the time. If you don't want that experience, then don't read something from the 1930s, I guess.
Yeah. Kind of got to brace yourself if you go far enough.
Yeah, it reads like a classical book. I'm not trying to oversell it here, but it's an old book. It's almost 100 years old in terms of like the narrative, right? And it's a short book because I didn't want to fabricate. I didn't want to like expand it like, oh, this isn't long enough, there needs to be more depth. I just was more of like repair guy. I just wanted to like fill in plot holes, like fill in blanks, polish things up a bit to get them in a book format. So it's not a lot. I mean, I have a copy right here. Let's see. Yeah, it's 219 pages long. It's a very short book. You could read that on a plane ride. But
that's like a nice bite of history, like for anyone who likes reading history or historical fiction or biography. That's perfect.
I've had some people make comments, and they're not like being like brutal critics or anything, but they've been like, it's a lot of dialogue, man. It's like, I was reading it. It's a good book, man. It's a heavy dialogue book. I'm like, well, yeah, it was a screenplay.
It started as a screenplay. What do you expect?
You have to understand the context, right? I wasn't going to go and try to describe actions and characteristics of characters like you would a normal novel, because that's not my authority, right? Yeah. Like I'm more of like a custodian or a curator. Yeah. Yeah, it is pretty dialogue heavy. But honestly, and maybe this is a hot take, but I think a lot of people should probably read something like it that is dialogue heavy, because I think dialogue is one of the hardest things that people struggle with writing in fiction, especially fantasy fiction. I think dialogue is it's tricky. So for me, like I'm not saying that as if I have it all figured out, but like reading, when I was putting the Vitamin Kid together, it was a lesson for me too, to go, wow, I didn't realize you could have this much, you could do these things with dialogue. And it was a lesson for me that I wanted to incorporate in my future writing. And there is a little bit of world building in the book because it takes place in Hollywood in the 1930s, like late 20s, going like the beginning period. And my great grandfather lived there while he was writing it, so it's very authentic. I've looked up like a lot of things that he's referenced in the book, and those existed at one point, like the boulevards and shops and stuff. So it's a pretty cool, like little time capsule book. If you ever want to like experience something old school, I guess it's kind of a niche read though, because it's sports fiction, and I think a lot of people want something more escapism. I think being forced to read books like that in high school kind of ruins it for people. Like when you're forced to read things like Of Mice and Men or The Great Gatsby or Grapes of Wrath, these old classics, right? I think people are kind of like, I don't want to read a book like that. I want to read something with dragons, right? So it's a very niche read. It's sports fiction. It's about a boxer. Like, there's no elves in this book, you know. But
yeah, I don't know. Boxing from that period sounds up my alley. So but I mean, you're right. It is. That is the toughest part of author life to begin with. Is just finding your niche. Period.
yeah,
Yeah. So, anyways, but no, I think like that's again, I'm biased. That sounds amazing to me, but that's coming from my background.
Since this was a screenplay to begin with, do you have any idea who you wanted to play the characters?
No, and I honestly, to my knowledge, having taken a screenplay class before out of curiosity to see if it would be something I'd want to pursue when I was younger, he wouldn't have had a say. It would have been the studio. Even back in that time, it was studios. They ran a tight ship with that stuff. So I kind of like me personally when I was reading it, and people might think this is funny, and I might be the only person that sees it, but the main character that isn't the boxer, Hap Connor, I really had a hard time when I was reading it not thinking of like Jimmy Stewart. And so I just kind of thought, and I know that's a totally different period. I know Jimmy Stewart wasn't a 1930s actor, but I kind of imagine like if this had been made into a movie in like the 40s maybe or 50s, like I could totally, in my head, I hear like picture Jimmy Stewart playing, and he's just really good at that. The character's kind of frantic, you know. I don't know.
That's cool. It's neat that your great grandfather made something, trusted it to his family, and then generations later, it's finally finished and completed.
Yeah, it's pretty unique experience.
It makes me think of all the little documents I have created and have not finished. They're just on my computer. How long will those things last? And will those ever be visited by my great-great-grandchildren?
It's gonna need to be your like you've talked to me about just how much you have on the that's gonna be your great.
Be careful what you write.
It's gonna be far down before it'll never get finished.
I also have his diary, so
wow, cool.
You never know. Be careful what you write on paper. Your grandkids might be reading it someday.
My mom, I think, I don't know, has my grandma's diary from, maybe my great grandmother's diary. Yeah, it is, and it was written in shorthand, but legible enough that if you know shorthand, it's decipherable. And there are some things in there. So, kind of family secrets that get talked about over Thanksgiving dinner once you've had a few drinks.
It was a cool experience though. I don't know. I thought the the boxer being a night elf, that would be a cool story. No, I don't know. It was a cool read story though. I mean, there's been a lot of I've gotten a lot of feedback on it, and I totally get what people mean. I don't plan to make a sequel or make any continuation of it. I don't plan to like go back and like change things with it. I wasn't really my goal with the goal is just to kind of, to be honest, I could see there being like a hardback version of it someday where I add some more things to it, maybe that might be relevant, like maybe some pictures or something. My regret with it that I have right now that I want to change someday is I originally wanted to do a dedication page to my family in it, but it wasn't something that was doable at the time. I have someone in my family that can draw really well, and I would like for them to draw like a cool graphic to use as like a new cover for it someday, but I don't know. They have other things on their mind right now.
It'd be cool if you looked at book covers from the 30s. And try to match the style of old book covers.
That's what I kind of did with this. I looked at the old style of books back then, and then the color scheme was the color scheme of like the manuscript leather bound thing that he kept it in was this color scheme. So that's why the book came out the way it did. I've had some people like, oh, it's very minimalist. I'm like, well, yeah, I mean,
I had a question then. So I mean, we can come, or we can stick with this, but just while I'm thinking of it, as you said, you learned a lot from the dialogue and for your future writing. So I'm genuinely curious that whether it's the dialogue or other aspects of just having done this, how much has it actually influenced your other book right now, The Arsonist?
And was Vitamin Kid, that was your first book you put out, or is because you
No,
have Arsonist coming
Oh,
out?
the other way
Okay.
around. So you did The Arsonist first.
we'll have to talk about the Arsonist. I know there's some people that have been commenting, they ask me questions about the
Yeah, so let's get to
Arsonist.
that.
I'll just say this with the Vitamin Kid as like a closing thought on it. The Vitamin Kid was my second book. Came out last
Okay.
summer. It came out last summer, and it was the dialogue's impact has not impacted my Children of Strife series a whole lot because it's something that's always been kind of being worked on.
Yeah.
But it has definitely impacted my approach to other things that I haven't like announced at this time.
Interesting.
Well, because you were saying you're well into the sequel for The Arsonist, right? So even that,
Yeah.
it
I
hasn't bled in at all.
no, because it was already kind of far along.
Mm.
And I think but what I really meant by how it impacted me is just like I never really thought about trying to incorporate like the way screenplay writers use dialogue, like incorporate that into like a book, which maybe it sounds
Right.
obvious to other people. I just never really thought about it that way because like usually dialogue goes hand in hand with like an action or something in a book,
Yeah.
like a fiction book. Like they don't just say something; they usually are like doing something with it. But then realizing like, well, you can just have them just say something. You know, I was talking about this with Russell about descriptions. You know, joking about how like in fiction books you can never have someone just walk into a room. They have to like walk in and you have to like vividly describe everything in that room, right? And that's one thing that this book kind of showed me is like you don't have to. Like he just walks into the market. I don't have to tell you everything that market has. He just goes to the market. It's a market in Hollywood. Let your imagination do the heavy lifting for once, right?
Yeah.
And some people don't like that. Some people think it might be too vague. I don't know, but
I think there's room for, but you have to be intentional, right?
yeah.
I mean, now the funny thing is, if you look at drafts of some fantasy books from very descriptive authors, the funny thing is how much they've cut out, and it still reads like a mountain of description, right? So
Yeah.
even then, it can come down to personal style and picking and choosing what you want to emphasize. But there's absolutely a place for leaving more room to the reader's imagination. You don't have to fill in all the blanks, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And see, screenplays to begin with, I never would have thought of until someone I forget it was when I was in my writing program and someone passed along a movie script they were working for, or they were putting together because they were going into the script writing program that the school had at the kind of the next level. And part of me was jealous, but the other thing was I realized from reading their draft, I thought this is some of the best dialogue I've ever read. And it challenged me. So then I got curious and started looking on databases at some of my favorite movies to see just the dialogue. If you take away the music and the drama and the visuals, if you just get it down to the text, you can learn a lot.
Yeah, and that's and like I said,
Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
Now the flip side is sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes it's the visuals and the music that makes something good, and then you look back after and you just look at the text of what they said, and you realize that was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Why did I like that?
I feel like that's more of like a video game thing too.
That too, yeah.
Writing
I mean,
to be kind of a...
yeah. Don't get me started on video game scripts. There are not many good ones when you really get down to it. Usually not playing for that anyway. But
you have my ear, citizen.
I used to be an adventurer, but then I took an arrow to the knee.
Took an arrow to the knee, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So tell us more about the Arsonist and the second edition. I mean, that's May 3rd. Do I have that right?
Yeah, this Saturday.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, okay, that's coming very soon. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Arsonist was my debut. It was my debut novel that I put out in 2 years ago. And the reason why I'm doing this new version is really, I've had a lot of people like, well, why redo it? And it really, I mean, look at it. It looks way cooler this way, right? I mean, Hank did a fantastic job. This is all like Hank is a very talented artist. He put this together and did a phenomenal job. And the chapter ornaments inside are really cool. I love the way it turned out.
Did he do those as well, or
Yeah, Hank did it all, and even helped with formatting inside the book. Hank was the true like hero of this new edition. It's mainly like a celebratory thing for me, because this was my debut book, and when it came out, I didn't get to release it the way I wanted to. Not that it was like riddled with mistakes and bad reception or anything like that. It was received pretty well, a humbling way, but I just didn't, like I never really gave it a lot of buildup. I just joined social media. I had never been on social media. And I've been hanging on to this book for years as I was going through the querying process, which I could talk about that later if people want. But I basically was just like, screw it. I'm just going to pull the trigger and publish this thing. Joined social media and was like, hey, I put this book out. I didn't do any build up to it or anything. A lot of people still picked it up and were interested in it. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm re-releasing it because I want more people to see it. That it's just more of like, it wasn't really given its fair shake. It wasn't done the way I wanted it to do it. And I just kind of wanted to celebrate it. I mean, it was 2 years ago I started this journey, and I see how far I've come, with all these cool people I've met and the communities I've been part of and all the support that I've gotten. I wanted, and like, as I'm finishing the next book for this series, I wanted to just kind of bring this back to the forefront, because I kind of trailed off. Like like I said earlier, like with the Vitamin Kid, right? Like I did the Vitamin Kid as sort of like an oath to my like 13-year-old self, right? Like, okay, I published The Arsonist. Like, you did the thing you were going to do, so you got to go do the Vitamin Kid. Well, I did that, but then it's kind of hard to be like, okay, I did the Vitamin Kid, and then a year later, like, okay, here's the next book in this series that you guys probably forgot about because I worked on it like 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, I need to bring this back to the forefront with a little bit of relevance before I release the next one.
Yeah.
So
frankly, so many. I mean, the great thing about being an indie author is you have the freedom to do things like this, and it's like readers love it. You don't need to feel ashamed. Readers want special editions. They want awesome covers. I look at this. I mean, you know how I feel. I see this and I see Jack of Blades, and I'm just happy.
I love that you see Jack of Blades, because I see it. I see it a little bit too, and I love that. I think that's really cool.
But like the thing is you were the thing, you don't know what you don't know. So when you start off day one on social media, put your book out, how could you know about just how powerful these communities are, about how effective a good book launch can be? And the thing is, like, all these books, so many authors do that, and their book deserves more fanfare than it got. And then what do? You just leave it be. No, this is great. This is it's not just about the strategy. It's I think a book like this deserves the attention. It deserves the power of a relaunch. So it's exciting. Like,
it's been really cool. I know. I think Russell asked a question earlier about the difference between, like, if this version has anything new or special in it besides like obviously the massive like cosmetic facelift that it received. It does. I haven't announced this yet. I was kind of waiting to see as a surprise, but I'll admit it. There are some new things in the book that were not in the first one. Not new chapters, just elaborated a few things, which I know some people might scoff at that or roll their eyes and think that's kind of a cop out. Like, oh, you went back and changed things after it had already been out for a while. And
I'm biased. I'm biased, but I strongly disagree with that. That I call it an ideology. And that makes no sense to me. We have the freedom. Why not?
It's just one of the perks of being an independent author.
Yeah.
Like,
and frankly, traditional authors do it all the time. They just wait a few years and then they do a second edition, and no one cares. But if you do it as an indie author, there's always a few people who say, "How dare you?" And
so originally, I met with Hank, and we were talking about what we wanted to do, and I was like, "Yeah, I really want to do a cover. This is what I'm thinking. This is the Arsonist. This is what he looks like. This is like his spiel, his aesthetic. Hank really liked, as you can see in the background, kind of, you can see the cathedral with the amber colored trees. Hank really liked the cathedral aesthetic and concept that's pretty heavy in the book, and really wanted to incorporate that. And I think they did a cool job putting it kind of in the background. Yeah, I mean, I told them like, hey, this is what I want to do with the cover. Then they were like, they brought up the chapter ornaments, and I had this map that I hand drew somewhere around here. That
fun. So we're getting
a large piece of drafting paper. It was just a COVID lockdown project. I drew this map that had been in my head since like 2015, and I was like, yeah, like I want to try to put that in the book. And so we were doing all that, and as we were going through it all, Hank brought up a lot of points, having read the book, was like, hey, there are a few things that, like, while we're here, could probably like touch this up, elaborate a little bit more on this, and maybe like, because there were a few things in the book that, it was my first book, and I was writing. I wrote most of it as an undergrad, and I kind of was trying to be I think I was a little too ambitious with being vague on certain things, like, I'm going to plant this seed, and then in like 2 books I'll review, like trying to do which like doesn't really work. It's that kind of payoff doesn't really happen anymore, or at least not in the way that I had envisioned it. It was sort of a like just flying too close to the sun, I think, because then what ended up happening is
so you decided not to actually go that direction with the sequel?
There are some of those things that are still in place that were done tastefully, but there's like certain things, I guess, where I didn't elaborate enough as I probably could have, because I don't know,
we're trying to be cryptic, or or
try to play it too safe, like, oh well, this is what it really is, but I don't want to say that because I don't, but so
I get it.
So yeah, Hank really pushed me to do that, and so I did. And so yeah, I think when people read, I don't want people that have the first edition to feel like they're missing out and they're like super Robinson. There's no new chapters. All the core story is still there. This one's just newer and special, like celebratory, and kind of sets the tone of what to expect with future releases, I guess.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, the Arsonist is just, it's the first book of my series, Children of Strife, and it's a series that I plan to at least make 3 books of, and I've been working on it for a long time. Yeah. Let's see. Who is Hank? Hank is the artist that worked on this cover and all of the nice details inside it. Hank is part of the Fellowship of the Indie Author Community. They go by Artist Briefcase on X. You can also find them on Instagram and Blue Sky. They're, I would say, if you're interested in reaching out to them to either praise them or commission them or talk to them, or about all things art and writing, probably contacting them through Discord or Instagram might be the best way to do that. I don't know what their preference is, really. I want to say that it's probably Instagram.
Fair.
Send him Hank Hill memes.
Hank Hill memes.
Gosh.
Ask about propane and propane accessories.
They're definitely not a King of the Hill, Hank. Quite the opposite of Hank Hill.
That's funny.
But yeah, no, they did a great job.
What inspired Children of Strife here?
Like the cover, or
the whole thing. I'm looking at the cover. I'm getting kind of Elder Scroll vibes. So where are you coming from when you came up with this story series?
So I mean, you want me to give you like all the lore background of how I came up with it, or
just give me the fun stuff?
No, we're going for another 3-hour show.
Yeah. Well, it all be no.
What was the seed of the idea?
So the origin story. So I used to, when I was in the Navy, I was involved in submarines. And
Mm.
if you've ever, well, I shouldn't say if you've ever been on a submarine, but you're very tired all the time because it's a very dark environment, and
Okay.
um, you're up for long periods of time, and you're usually having to occupy something that is very mind numbing, like
Mm.
staring at a gauge for
Making
9
sure you don't
hours.
die in the submarine.
Yeah. Yeah. So you come up with creative ways to stay engaged and awake.
Okay.
And I always carried notepads and stuff. So I would write. I didn't have any reading material, I didn't have any books or anything. You're limited on how much stuff you can take on. So, like, I would write things that I would like want to think about, like read or something. I'd like write stories for myself, basically.
Interesting.
It sounds crazy, but I would this type of character and like narrative kind of like theme kind of popped into my head one day on during that time period, and I just I don't know. It stuck with me even when I got out of the Navy, and I thought I'm gonna write this as a short story and like send it to some magazines, like like a fifth, like I'll just do like a quick synopsis, and didn't um, didn't do that. Just kind of forgot about it
Mm.
on, and then I went to school for writing, and as I was going through school for writing, I needed to provide material to workshop with people, and I just was like, well, what do I have that's like an original idea? And I was like, well, I went back and found the old like notes and stuff I had written. I was like, oh, this would be kind of cool. And so I just started working with it. Um, and eventually it became this. And
Nice.
I knew I wasn't going to be able to put everything into one book. So then I thought about doing two. And then I was like, I'll just do a series, um, or a trilogy, whatever you want to call it. But um, what inspired it? I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely like, I
Well,
love
what
all of.
what was the idea that made you go, "Oh, I need to write a short story for this"?
Mhm.
Well, I think the real original reason why I wanted to like initially do a short story is because I was not confident in my ability to write a full long form novel at the time.
Mm.
I
What
was
made you think this could be a short story?
just the character and the aesthetic. I was really, so I'll talk about like influences, I guess. Maybe that'll kind of
Yeah,
help
yeah.
me find,
Yeah, there we
because I
go.
don't have a clear answer right now, but what we could find it together.
We'll find it
I
somewhere in the dark ocean.
I like in terms of like movies and stuff. We'll start with movies. Huge fan of movies like The Crow with Brandon
Mm.
Lee, and of course, a lot of Nolan movies, but more specifically like the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yep.
Um, so in terms of like movie tone, I would say that those things were really inspiring. In terms of literature, I grew up with comics,
Mhm.
like Gen X type comics, not the stuff today that people get all mad about, like the old school stuff, like when
Classic Ninja Turtles.
classic Spider-Man, man, Spawn,
Yeah,
like
there we
Todd
go.
McFarlane, Jim Lee, and Todd McFarlane drawings, like original Wolverine, original the Hulk,
Mm.
uh, fucking GI Joe, all that stuff, right? So
Nice.
I uh, I liked those, and then like books. I was really big into like obviously Lord of the Rings is huge.
Mhm.
Tolkien's my favorite. At the time though, when I was in the Navy, I was reading the Game of Thrones books.
Hmm.
Right.
I was reading George R. R. Martin's work when I was into this. So, and I had and the Witcher books too by
Mm.
Sapkowski. So I was definitely under the influence of those books because people know how much I love Lord of the Rings that know me, and they're like, "Oh, is this book going to be like the Two Towers?" And it's like, no, that's like Tolkien's thing. I love that story. I don't think I could write that.
Hmm.
I don't. That's because then you're just trying to do that, But yeah. So like those were like my literature. I guess influences at the time. And I'm trying to think what else. Oh, video games. Yeah, Elder Scrolls. Skyrim's the best video game of all time. I don't care what people say. I love Oblivion and Morrowind, but Skyrim has got a special place in my heart.
The only game I would maybe counter that with Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time.
But
But
I'm talking about Elders. But yeah, like compared to other games, there's
but no, you're right. Second to that, I would Skyrim.
Huge World of Warcraft nerd. Just Warcraft in general. Even before World of Warcraft existed, I was playing Warcraft 3. Grew up with Warcraft 2. I love all the gamer stuff. I love all the nerdy stuff. I'm a total geek. I didn't. Like you brought it, like another one you brought was Fable. Like Fable, huge. Like I love the Fable games. Like like Jack of Blades, totally a really, really close comparison.
So kind of that dark. I mean, I love this. I love talking book and movie and game and comic comps as opposed to book comps.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Is like I don't want to say books because like if I tell you I was reading a lot of George R. R. Martin. When I was up to the point of writing this, but during the Navy time, right? Like in the inception or conception rather of the idea, but like not the, I was reading when I started writing this though, not the original idea. When I started writing this, I was reading all kinds of shit. I was reading Blood Meridian. I was reading Moby Dick. I was reading, freaking all kinds of like literary fiction and stuff. Like I would rather, I think like video game and TV and comic book influences would probably give a much better idea to people.
Yeah. So what would you say we're looking at here then? Just based on those movie and comic and, game references, kind of dark antagonist or anti-hero, or what do we?
There's obviously arsony going on.
An arsonist. So no, done.
Well, that's kind of. But those are good questions because that's what the book covered kind of invites, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like when you think of a masked person. I mean, I don't know a lot of porcelain masked people. I mean, you got the Phantom of the Opera, you got Jack of Blades. They're not usually great people.
Hey, V for Vendetta.
Vendetta. V for Vendetta, maybe. Yeah. Red eyes are never a good sign.
Yeah, exactly.
The word arsonist has a negative connotation.
You got strife. And children are annoying.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So yeah, I what do we have here? There's a lot that I kind of would rather leave to mystery for people to discover.
Yeah.
Because that is.
Give me a crumb. Give me a crumb to nibble on that makes me want to eat the whole sandwich.
I don't want to sit here. I don't want to be like, oh well, it's gonna subvert your expectations. But
no, give me a crumb. Tell me what the inciting problem is. What? So you have sci-fi books that have sci-fi problems. Fantasy books have fantasy problems.
So
what's the problem?
This story is the series name is the problem.
Oh, those kids.
Those darn kids.
Those meddling kids burning down our buildings.
I think the series name is more of an the series name is but just scams. The series name is more of an indicator of a problem than the subtitle. The subtitle is misleading because you assume
the tricky part. I mean, we're looking at the description here, but without reading it. You're summing up for us here the tricky part as authors. Summarizing our own works, it's so hard because you have to calculate what's giving away too much, what's going to properly entice people without spoiling. It's tough.
The book is full of surprises. It has gothic horror elements. It's got a lot of dark. It's got a lot of dark fantasy elements. I'll say a couple. I'll try to give you some crumbs without spoilers. Things that are relevant to what we were talking about. So I'll give you two things I thought of. First one is, we'll start with the arsonist character. I mentioned comic book influences. Mm-hmm. I thought it would be really cool, ambitious but cool, to try and create a fictional novel, but that has the character development of a comic character. Because if you look at comic books and you look at like fiction, if I take
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man comic or Wolverine comic, like X-Men, if I take an X-Men comic, you read and you look at like how Gambit becomes Gambit. You look at this character development or Rogue, right? And like comics are completely character driven. There's not a lot of description because the world building's done in the art. The description is, it's really just like a lot of dialogue and action. And I know it's a reductionist take, but just bear with me. Like comics are very character driven.
The plot is get all the colors before the bad guy gets all the colors.
but with books are more like world building, and there's like there's like, it's a different type of narrative structure.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that books can't be character driven, but like they typically have a lot going on.
I get you. Yeah.
And so I thought like, well, how could you, like, I wanted to try to incorporate like a comic book character into a fictional world, but I didn't want to just write like a superhero. But I did take inspiration from that stuff. I liked the idea of having a sort of avatar of vengeance, you look at like the Crow or like Batman, you have a simple person that is in a very dark environment.
Yeah.
That isn't an anti-hero, because a straight anti-hero is kind of boring, but they're not like your typical do-gooder paladin guy either. And one of the things that used to be funny, growing up reading comics, Spider-Man comics especially, because they were my favorite, is like Peter Parker in the comics, like he would always run out of his web shooter.
Yeah.
This is his most iconic thing, right? Is this. And it would run out. Like you can't do the web thing anymore. And that's like the whole, and so like there would be this tension in certain comics where, well, shit, how's he going to get out of this? He has no web shooters, right? And like the arsonist, he has a signature device, a type of, we'll call it like a flamethrower mechanism, a flame gauntlet of some kind. And
I call it a book of matches. I'm real fast with them.
Well, but it's not fine. Like it's fueled by a finite resource. So there's this stressful moment of like, there's this really powerful signature thing that this guy's known for doing. And then it runs out of juice. Now, what is this guy going to do? Because this is kind of his whole thing. And so I like that would be like I guess like an example of something that I took from some of my inspiration is like take like those comic elements and movie elements, like I said, like the Crow and like Batman, because Batman, he's limited to his gadgets, is just like Spider-Man in a way, and like the Crow, he's not limited to gadgets, but he's as vulnerable as the bird is, right? If the Crow gets injured, if you're familiar with that story, then that's his weakness. And so
well, speaking of those types of stories, then would you call the arsonist in particular an origin story, or are you starting mid-stride? You know what I mean? Do you start with the arsonist having already been developed, or do you
starts more? It definitely starts more of like, I've had someone I've had somebody close to me compare it to the Witcher books. You ever start reading the first Witcher book, it just starts off and you're just following Geralt, and he's just this guy. He's just this established person in town. Like there's no like, oh, he went through the trial of the grasses and then he grew up and 20 years later, here he is hunting monsters with a silver sword. Like, no, it just drops you off into town. He's on his horse, or he's walking his horse through town looking for a bar, and he's all armored up with a sword. He's established. He's grizzled. He's good to go. So it's definitely more of that kind of pacing. It's definitely not an origin story, because the arsonist is sort of a mysterious character that in a way, it is kind of an origin story, because you learn about them as you go. This isn't a book that's going to just be like, here's this character, here's an info dump, here's a prologue telling you everything you need to know, and all right, now we're going to follow them through an adventure. It doesn't. It's not that kind of narrative. The format doesn't even always follow the arsonist. There's 4 other characters, POVs. It's a very weird book. I know. I've had people say, that's weird, dude. It is weird. But yeah, and then another thing I'll say is like, because I already kind of told this to Russell in private recently, but there are rangers in the book, and rangers, people will come across that really early on in the book in chapter 4, and rangers are everyone has an idea of what to expect. Like you said, your mind immediately goes to Aragorn.
Yeah.
I would say same for me. Most people go with Lord of the Rings, Dungeons and Dragons. These are not that kind of ranger. Well, they are, but they're not. I'm trying to think how I phrase. I took a lot of things that I was really into and really cared about, and kind of tried to flip them on their head, I guess, and do something different. Because a ranger in a fiction story is not an original idea. It's just not. And you're never gonna escape the shadow of Strider and Drisdordan. So
Russell.
Yeah, well, they are real rangers, but they're not. It's not a guy in a green cloak,
surprise, squirrels
trailing orcs through a forest. They're different type. They're different, and that's all I'm going to say about that in terms of how they're different. But it's an example though, like talking about the arsonists and the rangers in the book. It's an example of taking things that really influenced me, that I really cherished, really liked, and kind of as my close UK friend on X says, taking the piss out of it. In that there's a lot of things in this book that I'm curious to see how readers react, because and there's people here that probably know me really well, and they know that I like to make fun of things that I care about. And to a point where it makes some of my friends mad, because they're like, come on, man. Like, I like this thing. Quit making fun of it. Like, you like it too. Why are you making fun of it? It's like, I don't know. I think it's because just growing up as a millennial in the internet culture, you're like punished for being sincere. And I'm not saying that the book isn't sincere. I don't want to allude to that in any way, but there's definitely things where it's like, man, does Tyler like this type of trope, or is he making fun of a trope but using a trope? And I'm not, and here's the thing, I'm not saying this right as if it's true, but I'm not denying it, and I'm also not saying that I went into writing this book with that idea in mind. These were things that were pointed out to me by beta readers. They're like, yeah, I read chapter whatever, and my mind, based off how it started, I was expecting this to happen, and then it kind of devolved into something I was not expecting. And like, it seemed like you were flirting with the, like, were you trying to do this trope, like this theme? Because that's not where it landed, and it's kind of like, I guess I didn't, but
well, that's a fun thing too. Stories evolve as you write them, right? So
yeah, absolutely. That's the magical part about them. It's just one fun adventure. I don't know.
So the Arsonist comes out this Saturday. It's a mysterious, exciting, unique experiment of a book that has fire and angry children.
Fire and angry children.
Everyone will love the Arsonist.
There we go. Well, there's a nice clip for us. You have a new punchline. Fire and angry children.
Fire and angry children. I need to use that in my next X post. Buy this book. It's full of fire and angry children.
Yeah. You need that as like a.
That's not bad. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good line.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you already have a reviewer.
Just write that down
on the top there, but yeah, now you need one. You can even, what? Give Isaac a little.
There's room on the bottom there for Isaac.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, stick it right on down there. We got till Saturday.
Isaac from all caps says, "Fire and angry children."
It's perfect.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to overhype it as like it's this super original, ambitious thing. I don't know. I don't really.
You're the author. You are allowed to be excited about your work.
Is it fun?
I'm excited. It's fun. I think it's a good book.
That's all
Obviously,
that matters.
I'm biased. It was fun to write. It's definitely the most like Tyler thing I've ever written in my life. I don't have a genre to put in. This is the thing I've struggled with for 2 years now, Tim, or no, 3 years. I say dark fantasy and gothic horror because that's what other people have told me. I've had 2 people say supernatural adventure, which I didn't even know was a thing.
Huh.
I don't have a genre for this book because I drew, as I was just basically explaining, I drew so many different inspirations when I was writing it, maybe too many inspirations. That I just don't.
I
know
relate.
how
I get it. It's when you've put so much from so many different influences into a single story, it's so hard to define the genre. And every time I put a genre for my own, I get the same thing. People will say, "Oh, that's interesting. I thought it was this," and yeah. So it's tough.
I've had people that are like, oh, it started off as a really cool fiction book, but then like there were these jarring horror elements, and like I thought this was a fantasy fiction book. And then I've had some people be like, oh, I thought it was going to be a horror book, but it wasn't really scary at all. And it's like I don't know, man. I
can't win sometimes.
Honestly, the more we talk about it and think about it, it totally gives me like you're like bringing up the Fable thing. Like that is such a good example because like if anyone has played Fable. It is an old game that has a lot of dark undertones, but it also has that like super well-timed British wit, like English humor. And it's like you're playing the game and like something really messed up happens. And then some guy says something really funny. Like there's a guy with his head cut off and he's like, huh, I wonder what was on his mind. You know, like just like really dark humor and dark fantasy elements. That's Fable. And that in a way, that's the Arsonist, I guess, too. I don't know.
Nice. So
that's
you
all
know how
I
Amazon lets you like pick the different subgenres? You got
they
dark fantasy, gothic horror, and then you put in Kiss fan fiction as the third one.
Kiss fanfic.
I think that covers everything.
He does kind of have the Kiss makeup without the mouth,
but he can't kiss.
You can't kiss.
That's the problem.
That's the conflict of the story of the character. He's born to kiss, but he cannot kiss.
Born to kiss, but
I mean, you had me at Fable, and then you had to say that. And now I'm
Fable, and Kiss.
I mean, that's a pretty fun combo.
A match made in burning heaven.
Yeah, I try to tell people that if they're gonna give the book a chance to go into it with no genre expectation, I know it's like impossible, but because it'll just disappoint you, I think, if you try to go into it like, oh, this is gonna be like a Dungeons and Dragons book or Lord of the Rings or The Witcher or whatever you want to compare it to, and it won't. I don't think it'll meet that expectation. Yeah, Travis gets it now. It's
gotcha.
That's the strife, is the inability to kiss that which you were born to kiss. It's tragic.
It makes you want to burn.
So many of the greatest stories I think of, though, in genres I love, they do that, though. I even think of now, here I'm going to go a little more to the movies than the books, but let's just talk really for a second about Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings, the movie.
A second, we need a
lot. I know. That's why I know I'm getting us in trouble here doing this. But think of some of the scenes in the Lord of the Rings movies are scary as hell. And I love fantasy with horror elements. Even
the Nazgul are terrifying.
Yeah,
that mean lady wanted his spoons and forks and chasing through the party. Those dwarves chipped his knives and blunt his plates, and that got me.
Get out of here,
sweat,
Isaac.
Man.
Get out. But no, I mean, that's the thing is even, those, I think when most people went into the theaters the first time for Lord of the Rings, they expected adventure. They expected, mythic, they expected some darkness, sure, but really adventure and swords and orcs versus elves. And beyond that, I don't think anyone expected that kind of genuine terror in the face of evil. And it was groundbreaking in a lot of
the Nazgul. The Nazgul were super scary. I remember when I went and saw the movie The Fellowship of the Ring in theaters as a kid. The Nazgul was scary. The cave troll was scary.
Yep.
I mean, but then you've got these like funny elements of like Mary falls down a hill. He's like, oh, I broke something, and it's a freaking carrot.
Yeah.
And you've got these like. Yeah, mushrooms, and then you've got like the magical elements of like you're in Rivendell and it's this beautiful, serene, perfect, like heavenly place. But now we're gonna go to the Mines of Moria and there's dead dwarf skeletons everywhere and goblin. Yeah, so like I think that's how it always used to be. But I think today with fiction books, there's like Russell said something in the comments. There's just so many subgenres. We've created so many boxes that now we don't know where things go.
Yeah.
Like it used to just be, this is the fantasy fiction box.
Well, you know what it is too, is the algorithm pushes people into narrower and narrower.
Yeah, boxes. That's a really good point. The algorithm kind of works against us in that way too. It's just hard because I just want people to check out the book, but I don't really know how to like
marketing is hard.
I don't know what box to put it in.
Could you stretch and say maybe it's Amish sci-fi?
Amish sci-fi.
Because that's a popular subgenre. You could put this in Amish sci-fi. I think you could do numbers. As long as someone there has a hat and a beard.
That would have a lot of interesting conflict in it. Amish sci-fi. I'm not a science fiction author, so I'm not going to take a stab at that. But I'm sure there's somebody here in watching.
It's real. I didn't make that up. Amish sci-fi. There's a subgenre on Amazon called Amish sci-fi.
Is he being serious, Tim?
I'm being serious. I'm not making that up.
I could believe it, but I just don't know. I'm picturing like
Amish sci-fi.
Yeah, no.
Jesus. We're gonna lose everybody. Everybody's gonna like, all right, they're delusional. They're
in the spirit of fun times. I don't know how much time you have, but first, before we even move on from this, which we don't have to, but I will say, like, people go like, if that sounds up your alley, which it should, because apparently it has everything in it. Go, stay tuned until the 3rd. So that's Saturday.
I will say, yes, it comes out May 3rd, which is its 2-year anniversary day. And I will tell people this because this seems to be a really enticing element for a lot of people lately. It's a short book.
Oh, yeah. That's a bonus.
It's like 269 pages. Or
it's
79. It's
Mike
short.
Probably isn't still here, but if he is, that you probably just made his night. Anything less than 500?
Mike, he does read long books and he doesn't do long streams.
Yeah, it's a short book. I
mean, that's still a good length. I think over 200, you're getting into something that's a little more than a one night read, but not so much that I feel daunted by it. That's
it's. I don't know. I've had a lot of people ask me why it was so short. They're always surprised after they read it. They're like, man, it was really short. I felt like not like there was plot holes or things missing that could have been some more. It kind of left them longing. And I feel like that's a good thing.
That's very good.
Kind of like when you binge watch a show and you're like, man, it was only 5 episodes. I gotta like, it could have been, the season could have been longer than that. I feel like, it probably could have, but then you wouldn't be as like excited, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or if you don't like the book, then you're like, thank God this was only 200 pages.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, true.
I think some people have the mentality they associate that longing with cliffhangers, and not everyone likes one of those at the end. But if it's just the first 3 stories, the arc is not done yet.
Yeah, the arc is this. This is just the beginning, and it's short though, and the chapters are not. I'm not gonna I'm not going to beat you over the head with syntax and description for 19 pages. The chapters are not. I would. Maybe this will sound like I'm really selling. This is a book that I would say is definitely marketed to millennials and some Gen Xers and Zoomers in terms of attention span. Because if we have time to talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
Nobody ever talks about this in any of the writing communities. Never talk about this on X. I have been thinking about bringing it up, but like we were talking about at the beginning of this podcast, the unruly mobs exist on X. I have to pick my fights very carefully.
Well, you're in a good space.
I have a reputation. I have a reputation on X of bringing up controversial things. So I don't think a lot of people, and this might be a hot take, maybe I'm generalizing, people in the chat are going to chime in and correct me if I'm being crazy here. I think a lot of people grew up reading long form fiction like Tolkien And I think they grow up reading that and they go, this is what it needs to be. This is what it needs to be like. And they don't take into account how much, put culture, history, world history aside, attention spans. Attention spans are completely different today than they were even 20 years ago. And I think that plays a big role into how we as writers, or authors, I should say, need to be thinking when we write books. I think that's an element that everyone overlooks, because they're like, well, if you don't like that my book was like super long and descriptive, then you're the problem. You need to go read some C.S. Lewis. And it's like, well, I love C.S. Lewis, but that's, like a good example I could say would be like, look at music, right? Look at like the Beatles and like the Doors and even like Led Zeppelin. You look at some great bands from back in the day. They're still relevant and successful today. They're still praised and cherished today as the greats, as classic rock and what have you, right? Even stuff from like the 90s, like look at like Nirvana, like Motley Crue in the 80s, and look at stuff even in the early 2000s, like Green Day, Blink-182 and stuff. My point is, you look at music and how that's changed. It's the lengths of the songs and stuff haven't changed a whole lot, but it's like the attention grabbing has changed. Like you listen to a song today, a brand new song within like the last 5 years, and it hooks you in like 9 seconds or less, right? You listen to a song from the 70s, there's a buildup, Rush. I love Rush, but there's like, you got to be invested in the song, and then there's the payout. Same thing with something like Dream Theater and bands like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, there's really good music, but like it is not an attention span grabber. And I'm not saying everybody needs to write shit that grabs somebody within the first 9 pages and doesn't let go of them. And like, I'm not trying to promote like hookiness, but I think that it's an element of the reader that does not get talked about enough.
Yeah. Well, you know what I think you're hitting on too? It's not just, see, I wouldn't frame it as a permanent shift. I think that a lot of these things come and go because even thinking back to what got me hooked, I started on some really long books and then got hooked almost immediately after in my preteens on novella length fantasy books.
Novella length fantasies, those are
they
great.
were incredible, and it got me hooked. I would read one of those per night, and I would beg for more, and I would get
Ranger's Apprentice, Deltora Quest.
Deltora Quest was the one for me.
Yes, same here. Totally get it.
But that was after having plowed through The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings,
which are like
so, but that's the point. So even as individuals, we go through ebbs and flows. And it's the same thing for entire generations. And now this reminds me of a really funny post I saw on X a few months ago, but it sticks with me, and it hits this perfectly, because I saw a post from someone. Again, like you said, the attention span has gone lower and lower and lower, including for music. So the trend was towards shorter songs. And then I think around this time, Taylor Swift came out with some like 12-minute long.
12 songs, yeah.
Right? And someone made a post saying, wow, this is so novel. No one's ever done this before. And trends crashed on X.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're right. Things do come and go. There are like trends and stuff. But I guess, I'm not saying like everyone, like, oh, I wrote short because of that was not why the book is short, by the way. Like, just for everyone listening, like, I didn't make the Children of Strife book short because I was trying to tailor it to an attention span. That was a thing I realized a couple years later, like last year kind of thing during the Vitamin Kid. I was kind of realizing a lot of people really liked that the Vitamin Kid was so short. They're like, man, I wish more books are like this. And I was like, and I would ask them like, well, why? Like, usually you want a book to be like 330 plus pages. And they're like, well, it's hard for me to like sit down and read a book for a long time. So if I can just like sit down with my coffee and read like a chapter or like a couple pages a day, like really quick snippet chapters, like it keeps me engaged. It gives me that, like, I just replace scrolling for a little bit with just reading a chapter every day. And it keeps me like, they're not long chapters. So I guess you could have a long book, but I guess what I would like, maybe what I'm talking about even has to do with just maybe like chapter density.
Yeah. Oh, like, no, because that's you're now really speaking my language, because even the way I wrote my book, and I think Isaac can relate. I've read his, and it's kind of Isaac thrives with punchiness and
Just
shorter.
real punchy, short stuff.
Yeah, well, my chapters by design, and I say that, but I've kind of started breaking it a bit, but there's a way around it, which is obvious, but I'll say in a second. But most of my chapters are meant to be read in one sitting. And by design, grab your attention, keep you going, get through it, and then if that's where you want to stop, that's what the chapter breaks.
But they have like a stopping point.
Exactly. Now, the other thing you can do, I edited a chapter for someone recently, and her chapters, and she's an amazing author. Her chapters are anywhere from 10 to 15,000 words each. Yeah, but they have section breaks, so it's the same thing at the end of the day, right? And that's the thing is even within a long chapter, give the reader a place to pause.
Just give them a chance to breathe. Like, like if you want to make the book, if the book needs to be 398 pages, and it's like spanning the don't make the chapters like 19 pages long, man.
Yeah. Well, again, though, so the way you, that was not a comment. Like this author I have in mind, she's fantastic. And the thing is, she's found a way to make those long chapters work because they have section breaks. If you don't have that, and you have a 5 to 10,000 word, which I have seen, like Tolkien, some of his were 8,000 words, just to put in perspective.
Yeah, no,
and these days, that's too. You just can't breathe through that.
You've got. I mean, we all and I'm not saying this like I'm some elderly guy on a mountaintop condescending the youth. Like we all are guilty of our
conversations like this are how we learn. It's not condescending.
Yeah, we're all guilty of scrolling social media, watching, binge watching things, and just that attention, just real punchy. I need to be interested in this within 5 seconds of engaging with it, or I'm just like, you're seeing it with video games too nowadays, right? Like it's just, I don't know. I think. And I don't have all the answers. I'm kind of just presenting a talking point that I've been hesitant to bring up on X of I think there needs to be a discussion amongst authors more about attention spans, because I think that it's something that falls to the waste because, like I said, of our influences growing up, what we read and being like, man, I really want to write the next Chronicles of Narnia. And it's like, yeah, but I'm not trying to make a point of like those books
are pretty short,
They are, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like I wouldn't make I'm not trying to make an argument that like books today or books back then wouldn't work today or anything like that. They probably would work today, but just I don't know. I don't really know. I guess
it may honestly just be the case that if you want to write a book like that these days, you may just have to wait a little longer before the trend, before the pendulum swings back. That's
it just
the point.
Seems like people, I don't know. It just seems like most readers tend to like, at least in terms of chapter length, not right. I'm not talking book length, but
this is going to sound condescending, but it's not.
That should be the tagline for tonight's episode.
So people who want to sit down and write the next Lord of the Rings. You can try. I don't think you can write it in your 20s or your 30s.
No.
I think
I agree with you.
If you want to have Lord of the Rings works because Tolkien himself was an encyclopedia of imagination.
He was also much older when
it took years of experience, life experience, learned experience. I mean, if you want to do something that has deep meaning and is impactful and actually has it feels important as you're reading it, you got to be in your 60s or 70s to write that stuff.
And those can have those really long, rewarding. That could be like the rush of music, like talking about music. That could be like the long 12-minute song with the big payout and the amazing bridge and verse. But when you're in your 20s or even 30s and you're writing your first couple novels or novel, and like you brought up a good point, Isaac. It's a great point. It's like, I'm not saying you can't have deep lessons and meaning in your stories.
Not even deep lessons. I just mean like actual depth in the writing and the craft of it. Like the attention span isn't just dwindling for readers, it's dwindling for authors too. We want to write our epic and we want to write it, before we're 50.
Yeah.
And it doesn't.
That's a really good point about the fact that it's authors too. Yep.
It is. Well, absolutely. And that's why you need to write and I think that if you it kind of goes back though. I feel like this only kind of reinforces what I'm saying though. Of like, if you want to write a story in your 20s or 30s, right? Write something to be entertaining, which then comes back to the attention span should really be strongly considered then, right? And if you don't find what you're and make sure what you're writing, are entertained by what you're writing, because if you don't believe in what you're saying in the dialogue, or you don't think what you're describing is fun to know, the reader's gonna not like it either. And like, if you're just write I guess at that point just write to entertain, because
Sorry, guys.
Tolkien was 70. You got lots of time. How old was he? Was he 60, 70? I don't know. He was old. You guys aren't that old
he
yet.
was old.
He was old. He was like, he had one foot in the grave when he started
But
writing about
what
Bilbo Baggins.
Yeah, I'm just saying that like they should just trying to write something that's entertaining for you as the author, because if you do succeed in doing that, it'll be entertaining to the reader. And as long as you can just not beat them to death with 19 long like page chapters of just dense description and info dumping and syntax dilemmas, like, I think people will like it. They'll go, yeah, that I got my money's worth. I was entertained in the car on a road trip with family. I read the book in the back seat. It was entertaining, totally worth the $15. You don't have to, not everything has to be this like complex world. Everyone has their own language, and sometimes the story just needs to be interesting. I mean, shit, man. I mean, like, we were talking about video games earlier. Look at some of those games like Skyrim and Fable and stuff. Like, there is a lot of complex world building, backstory, lore in those games, even like the Elden Ring game and stuff. But like, most people don't look at any of that stuff or care about it. They're in the immediate moment of like, I want to get the new sword. Like, they're just, take me to the amusement park. I want to ride the ride. Like, I want to do the fun thing. Right. And there's room for both. I try to do a little bit of both with my writing. I want to encapsulate really and like distill like things that are really like I'm struggling with as a writer, and like doing like a deep, meaningful thing. But I'm also like, I don't know. I have a weird relationship with my inner critic, and we kind of just make fun of each other. And so like sometimes I feel like that'll bleed into my writing, and I have to have like people like beta readers catch it and like help me edit it out, where I'm like kind of making fun of myself while I'm writing, and it's like apparently obvious.
That's funny. Yeah. Yeah, you have to be careful about that when you're writing. Sometimes we are our worst critics, and it can actually weaken the prose big time.
Yeah. Well,
another thought really quick. I made a post a while, not that long ago. I think maybe a week, 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know. Because I finished reading something by an author who I had read something else from, and they took a gamble. They radically changed. They actually did the opposite. They went from writing the punchier, entertaining to the more epic, dense, and they nailed the epic dense.
It can be done.
Well, my point more in my post and now was that as authors, it is actually really useful to try different things. If you started writing the epic and dense, try writing the short and entertaining, just to flex new muscles, because the skills from both will bleed into each other. You'll do both better. Don't be afraid to try something new, is my point. And I think the authors I really admire are the ones who can do more than one type of writing.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And I agree with that. And I think that there's something to be said about like the age old rule is, show, don't tell. And I think some people, almost all of them, will agree that that's an important rule to think about and consider when you're writing, especially fiction. And I think that that some people take that as, oh, I need to be overly descriptive. Not necessarily. You can show things through dialogue without it being an info dump. You can show things in description.
Yeah, I would consider excessive description a form of telling, really.
Yeah.
Me
show
too.
Don't tell just
like,
means use better verbs.
If like Russell made a good point in a conversation I had with him recently, it's like, just because you're entering a forest that we haven't been in yet doesn't mean you have to describe the type of tree. You're going to be really tempted to. You don't have to describe every forest. you can show it in a different way. You can you don't have to describe what kind of tree it is, what kind of leaf it is, how tall it is. You could just say that it's foggy.
I just want to know,
very eerie.
is the tree angry? That's all I need to know. Seriously, is that an angry tree? That paints such a picture immediately in my head.
Yeah, but you don't. But you get what I'm saying, though. Like,
yeah,
you
I
don't
get you. I get you. We don't need to.
Well,
We don't
flip
need
side
to
too is a lot
park
of
there.
this. This is the danger that we all get into as well. Is rest when we are all striving to be the best we can be at what we do.
Yeah,
And
of
in the midst
course.
of that, we also, and like you talked about earlier, we read each other's works and we get competitive in a good way, hopefully. And the maybe the dark flip side of that you see sometimes, not so much from authors critiquing each other as just something I don't know, in the bookish community, it's there, is sometimes we start imposing our preferences on each other. You know, for example, someone
Yes.
looking at your work and saying, "Oh, I wanted more of the horror," but that's not what you wrote with some
Right.
horror, but that's not the pure thing you were going for.
Yeah.
And that can be that's where I have a hard time drawing the line. Because some of these
It's
things,
difficult.
some of these things were intentional. The author wanted you. Maybe you're not at the part in the book yet where the trees become significant. But if I'm
Yeah.
reading, then again, like look at Tolkien. Some of his tree descriptions, you'll never convince me we really needed them, and yet, and the forest itself and the life of the forest, like those are all elements that later become critical. So I bet you if we talk to him now, he would say those descriptions were absolutely essential, and here's why. And how? Who are we to say? I don't know.
And I'm guilty of it too. I mean, I have my little, I guess, Tolkien motifs in my in the Arsonist. There's definitely parts of the Arsonist book where I'm a little probably a little heavy-handed with description. You know, it was my debut book. I hope that I'm not up here. I'm sharing with everybody what I've learned. I don't want people to take any of this away, go read the Arsonist, and then be like, you know, he talks like doesn't talk, but he doesn't do the walk. Like, no,
that's all.
There's definitely a lot that I've learned since writing the Arsonist. And honestly, when the next book in the series comes out, I think if people read this book and then they give that one a chance someday, I think they're going to see the growth. I think they're going to see the knowledge change. I think the tone and everything will still be similar. It's not going to feel like a whole new book, but like whole new world, I should say. But I think people will see like, okay, yeah, Tyler, he figured it out. He found his groove. You know, he found his pace.
The tricky thing is exactly that is convincing readers to give the next one a chance. That's almost we almost need a whole other conversation for the difficult. I mean, that's why you almost do need to start a new series after this one, just to show the improvements so that people go back and give that sequel a chance. You know, it's one of the hardest things about what we do.
Yeah.
Is growing and then convincing others that we have grown, you know?
I think if people like The Arsonist, when the next book comes out, I think if they give it a chance, I think that they'll be really blown away. I'm not selling myself short with The Arsonist. You know, I think it was pretty good for a debut book. I don't know. But obviously I'm biased. I'll let other people kind of make that judgment call over the next couple months as they.
I'll check it out. I'll give it a judgment call.
Go ahead. I'm all for it. I like to think that I take constructive criticism pretty well. And I'm actually excited to hear honest feedback from people on it, because the next book's not out yet. I haven't sent it off to beta readers yet. So there's still a chance, time to sort of, I don't want to say change course, but consider things that I didn't know or think about or see, right? Maybe I was a little over the top with a certain element in the Arsonist that's going to appear again, and maybe I need to consider toning it down a bit, right? So the feedback is helpful. Yeah. Even if it's not going to, I think people, especially on X, get worried about alienating themselves or others, or, just being honest when you leave a review is really helpful. Even if even if it's not, if the book isn't a 5-star book, then that's okay. But just make sure you elaborate so they can learn, right? And it'll help.
Yep.
That's what we're all trying to do here.
Reviews with some healthy criticism in them are gold. I love, yeah, they are what help you grow more than some, honestly. Beta feedback is great, but it can be really hard to find good ones, and even the good ones, there's a certain filter on there I find that isn't present in reviews, because the other thing too is reviewers are the people who have actually paid for your book.
Yeah.
Those are the ones who, if we're being honest, you kind of want to pay attention a little more. Because
Yeah.
your beta readers could just be your friends, but they're not necessarily going to tell you what's going to make your book better for the market that you're trying to sell to.
Yeah, I mean, the best review I got from the Arsonist when it originally came out 2 years ago, best review is obviously subjective, but for me, the most we're talking about helpful reviews. Someone gave the book 5 stars and said that they were really blown away by it, basically because the book kind of made it seem they were expecting it to be a book full of like magical elements and like, fantastical storytelling. And it ended up being a lot to them, their reading of it, interpretation, it ended up being a lot more about people. Like, and I'll kind of just leave it at that. I guess the reviews on there, if anyone ever wants to go read it, you can pull it up on Amazon, and it's like near the top. That kind of stuck with me, is because like, I guess it is kind of about people, which interesting.
Well, like you said earlier, the comic book inspiration in that sense, like it's supposed to be about people.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Here.
All right. I don't know how you are for time. How are you time wise right now?
I'm good.
Yeah, because we
good.
did have some fun. Yeah. We had a bit of a fun game planned. I'm excited for this. Let's I don't know, Isaac, are you ready? Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Full disclosure, I prepared this 20 minutes before we went live.
So it may or may not be hilarious. We'll see. We'll see what's up. All right.
Get ready for the late great hot take debate. Now, I don't know. The pictures came with the template. So
Jay Leno.
That's even better.
We are going to debate some hot takes. I want to get your hottest takes on these hot takes, because I got hot takes.
My hot take on a hot take.
Yes. Do you share this hot take, basically? When it comes to a good hot dog, it's mustard or nothing. Do you agree?
The German in me says yes, assuming that it's not like some American or Canadian grocery store hot dog. This is like a German hot dog.
Like you went to Germany and you found a hot dog on the ground and said, that one?
On the ground, yeah. At Oktoberfest. I would say if you're like just going to like a baseball game, the mustard tends to kind of suck. So does the ketchup. So does the ketchup. So like if you mix the two of them. So does the
baseball game. Come on.
True. If you go
there's our hot take.
If you get like, okay, like even movie theaters, I don't know about you guys where you are at, but like here movie theaters do hot dogs, big ones. And like,
hate it.
Again, the mustard sucks.
Yeah.
Ketchup sucks. But if you mix them both together, it kind of makes something half decent.
For me, it's ketchup and relish that does that for me.
Yeah,
that's tolerable.
Relish.
I can't stand that crappy cheap mustard. Give me like a good.
Russell makes a good point. We are talking about hot dogs, not brats.
It's hot dog.
I'd have to say, if we're gonna limit it to like the good old fashioned American baseball game hot dog,
you gotta go mustard. It's mustard or nothing.
Nah, I don't know. I
can't do it. It's low quality mustard. It's not good.
Yeah, it's gross.
It's just gonna taste like a bitter.
You're disappointing Jay Leno.
The exception for me was the time this was with mustard, because it was. I don't even think they had ketchup available. It was a street meat stall in.
That's really sad. You go up like, here's more ketchup. It's all gone. Sorry.
Well, they had all the classics.
It's all gone.
I just quickly.
We got this yellow piss. You can put that on a hot dog.
Why does he sound like that?
This is how people sell hot dogs sound.
Where?
Everywhere, global, or in every corner.
Oh no! I'm sorry. I'm putting this up just so I can disagree with it.
Mayo on hot dogs are sleeper good.
When I was a baby, when I was a little tiny baby, I would take the bun, put the mayonnaise, Then I do the relish, make a little bed. Then the hot dog. Then the ketchup. Then the mustard. Then whatever else was there. I would just grab things.
You're
I would
killing
eat
me.
that.
Isaac, did I tell you this story? Did I tell you about the time that this was the time I was in New York City, and I was so hungry because it was late in the afternoon. So I go to the first street meat station I saw, and I just started wolfing it down.
You
and
went
I
to
was
a meat
halfway
station?
through.
What's a meat station?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Take
What
me
is
to the
a
meat station right now.
Street meat. Come on.
If-
What a street meat stall. You know what I'm talking
Street
about.
meat.
If
Look at
my-
that street meat.
Point is, I ate through half the napkin before I realized I had. So
good.
napkin apparently goes really well with ketchup.
Well,
but,
the street meat has the grease, and the grease goes into the napkin, so the napkin tastes really good.
I didn't taste a thing. I only realized halfway through.
Travis made a good point. He says hot dogs require mustard only, regardless of quality. The only other thing you can put on a hot dog is chili.
I mean,
There you
chili,
go, my
yes,
man.
but I disagree with the mustard. Chili, yes.
Now, the perfect hot dog includes the mustard, but it also includes the sauerkraut. That's the perfect dog.
I feel like we're talking about two different. That's like a brat thing, though, man.
Yeah. Now we're back to brat.
I'm too poor for brats.
All right, what's next?
It's okay to skip the first book in a series. I want to get to the good stuff. If I need context, I'll Google it. First book promises aliens. Aliens are in the next book. I want to read stuff with the aliens. I'll just jump ahead. No harm, no foul.
I knew so many people that were like this when I was in high school. They would they would skip around like the Twilight books.
Well, that's okay.
They would skip around. They would skip around the series of Unfortunate Events books.
That's not okay.
And
That's
the
how
Harry
I
Potter
started
books.
Unfortunate Events. I picked the cover I liked.
Really?
And I was like, what is going on?
Oh man,
That's disappointing.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
What do you think Jay Leno does? He looks like he skips around. Look at that face.
I mean, look. At least I can't get mad at this because even though it's annoying to me and I don't understand it, I will say at least they're reading.
Fair.
At least they're consuming some
people.
kind of
A lot of
written
people.
word.
I know less people that read books than people that do, and so at least they're reading something.
Yeah.
At least they're picking up a book and going, "Yeah, I like this. It has aliens in it."
Yeah.
I mean,
if Wheel of Time was 3 books, the chances of me reading it would go up much, much higher.
I think that's.
I will read Wheel of Time. I will, but I might be in my 40s by the time
it's gonna take a while. Yeah.
sit down and read it.
Probably be my
But,
40s by the time we get Winds of Winter out.
if ever. Yeah.
That man better lose some weight if he wants to live long enough to finish that book.
Yeah. I've never, I'll say this. I've never done this. I've never skipped the first book in a series intentionally. I've more or less been not forced to. I guess I could have, but once or twice for editing. And it was just a light copy edit. It wasn't a full developmental or anything. So I didn't really need the context, really. So there were, and they were on a short deadline. So once, 2 or 3 times now, actually, I've read the second book or even the third just for the editing. And I found some of the best books I've ever read were the second or third in a series, which maybe just speaks to the author's ability to pick up in a way that even a new reader could enjoy it. And that's
It's
part
a
of
cheat
the art
code.
That's
the
part
author
of the
gets
art of a
better
good
in the
sequel.
second and third. Google the first book, cheat code, get the summary, jump into the good stuff. Why swim through the gross seaweed water when you can jump straight out to the clear ocean where everything's clear?
I personally couldn't do it, but see, like, I can't even watch a series. I have to start it over so I understand how we got to this point. Same thing with movie. Same thing with video games. I mean, I think the only exception that I've done that with a video game was probably the Elder Scrolls game, because Daggerfall was just so, and Fallout, those the first versions of those were
Arena.
Those were, you could still play them, but they're just kind of old.
Okay, fair points. Or fair point here. Star Wars started, but I mean,
that was
the
intentional.
Author.
Though.
The author did that.
That was intentional, though. The
Yeah.
reader didn't pick up episode 4 with skipping the other 3, although I know a lot of people probably wish they could skip the
And
first 3.
I don't think George sat down and said, "I'm going to do number 4 first." No, I
No,
think
he did.
No, he says that. That's what
Yeah.
he tells people. I
Totally not
guarantee
before.
you that's not how it worked. He had his little notebook of the lore. Like, I'll have this for later. And he makes his fun sci-fi
I'll make
movie.
this
Makes
for
3 of those.
later.
Yeah.
I feel like that's you know what? I've talked to so many authors who've gone back and written prequels, right? And that's exactly how it happens. You write the first book, but you know there's history before, and then you go back and you write that and say, No, it's not. No.
I'm gonna do my own Jay Leno hot take. I don't like prequels,
That's not that
Okay.
hot a take. I agree. I usually don't like
and
prequels.
I think anti-heroes are boring.
Hmm.
There's like I could count on one hand how many anti-heroes across all media, games, movies, books, comics. There's like 5 anti-heroes I can name.
Bugs
I'm
Bunny.
not going to because will derail into, but I will just leave it at that. Those are my Jay Leno hot takes.
I'm very curious
Gotcha.
now. Yeah, especially coming off of the Arsonist, which did the dark vibes it gave weren't quite anti-hero, but enough that now I am genuinely curious which ones you aspire to or really enjoy. So
Give me
Yeah,
give me
all
one.
right. yeah, give us one.
One,
One.
Illidan,
Who's Illidan?
Warcraft character.
Warcraft man? Doesn't count. Nobody
He
knows
has a
about
book.
that.
There's a book. He has a book. He has a couple books.
Okay.
It counts.
Okay,
Drizzt
it
is a
counts. It
hero.
counts.
Drizzt isn't an anti-hero.
Drizzit. Is his name really Drizzit?
No, it's Drizzt.
Drizzed? I've been saying Drizzit.
Drizzt
All right,
sounds
what's,
like a
uh,
drink
Here
at a
comes
club.
Drizzit coming down the road.
Next hot take.
Not liking
Here we
pineapple
go.
on pizza is a psyop. You people are crazy.
True.
Yeah, well, that was an easy one. We're all in agreement here.
There's
Yes.
people in the chat.
Yes.
Hey, Travis knows Illidan.
Hmm.
Travis is probably.
Well, Travis is a man of culture.
Yeah, he's.
I put only mustard on
puts-
hot dogs.
He puts only mustard on hot dogs, and he knows who Illidan is.
Okay, cool. Yeah, the pineapple.
way.
You put the pineapple, some jalapeno. You get the sweet and the spicy. That's a good time.
The best pizza I've ever had is at a place in California called Me and Ed's Pizzeria in the Central Valley. It's called the Hot Hawaiian Pizza, and it has pineapple on it because Hawaiian, but it has a bunch of other crazy shit on it, and it's the best pizza I've ever had. Pineapple on pizza is delicious. If you don't like pineapple, I find that the people, and maybe there's someone in the chat that'll disagree with me. I find that the people that don't like pineapple on pizza, they tend to either be in one of two camps. Either one, they just only like pepperoni pizza.
Yeah.
Boring.
That's boring. Yeah.
Or they like mushrooms and black olives and like weird
That's like
things together.
If a rabbit ordered a pizza, that's what it would get.
Yeah, they're like they either want like very little to anything on the pizza, or they want like too much. There's like too much going on. There's like a rave and a Nickelback concert happening on their pizza.
Yeah.
It's like
And
way
Kiss
too
is
many
eating
things.
pizza as fast as they
Kiss
can.
is there. Yeah, Kiss is there. Illidan's there. It's just a crazy time.
Second best pizza I ever had was with pineapple and instead of ham, bacon, and then pepperoni and mushrooms. And that was a nice blend. I liked that. Best
Good
pizza I ever
medley.
had was at an Italian pub. Oh my. And in that case, you maybe wouldn't like it then because it was a thin crust with everything on. I'm talking a few different meats and peppers, hot peppers, as well as.
Is this at the
regular-
meat station?
Uh,
The
this
meat
was-
station. Next to the meat station. After the napkin was like, I want something else that's really thin and crunchy. I'll go to this.
Plot Armor said in the chat. Plot Armor says Hawaiian pizza started in Canada. Is that true?
I feel like it
Yes,
is.
that's
I feel
true.
like
Yes.
it is true, yeah.
I did
Is
a
that- well, it
podcast
makes-
about it last year. All about it.
That makes sense because the ham that goes on is Canadian bacon, right?
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Why would they?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they probably were just like, "Hey, it's Hawaiian because it has pineapple on it."
Oh man.
Yep.
Anyways, side pizza note. Have you ever, had pizza with a really good oil like you get in some Italian places?
Oh yeah.
'Cause nothing beats that. Nothing beats a nice chili oil drizzled on your pizza or dipped in,
Ooh,
obviously.
you're making me hungry, man.
Yeah, I'm getting myself in the mood.
First hot dogs, now pizza. Like what the hell?
We're
The next hot take
alternating. We're
gonna be
alternating.
next hot take's gonna be about ice cream, isn't it?
Well, let's find out. It's definitely not.
Songs and
Oof.
poetry and fantasy are boring. I didn't read any of Bilbo's crap in Lord of the Rings.
Look at his face. Look at Jay Leno's face as you're
Yeah, the
reading this
best ones, aren't
heartbreaking shit to me. He's just like, I hate everything that is good.
It's perfect.
He knows what's good.
So no
Jay
Tom
Leno
Bombadil for
he's
you,
gonna
eh?
drive in his car, not reading any poetry.
No Tom Bombadil?
I mean, if you don't like songs and poetry and you're reading fantasy, I don't think it's a hot take to not like those things, but I think to not like them and read Lord of the Rings is kind of weird.
When I read Lord
That's
of
like-
the Rings,
That's
whenever
like
I
saying
got to a solid block of poetry, I go, next. I didn't even glance at it.
First
You're
time I
breaking my
read
heart.
through, I absolutely read them all, but I will confess the second time I read through Lord of the Rings, I skipped.
That's different.
Now here's a true question. Did I miss any plot elements
No.
or skipping the poetry?
There's foreshadow elements. Yeah, Bilbo's poem, about not all that is gold glitters. Is a foreshadow about Aragorn. Not all who wander are lost.
He explains
Stole
it
that
though.
line from
After the
someone
poem,
else.
he says
That's
it was about that
Shakespeare.
guy.
Yeah,
Doesn't he
but
explain
it's not,
it afterward?
But that's
Right,
telling, not showing, Isaac.
But Tolkien's like, the rubes in America aren't gonna get this. I better have someone ask Bilbo what that was
Honestly,
about.
That's not a hot take. That's probably true. He probably was like, you know what? These freaking guys over in North America aren't going to know this shit. They didn't go to Oxford. And so he probably was like, oh, this is what it means, dumbass. Like,
Hey, I mean, sometimes that's just good authorly exposition. You sneak something in for the clever ones to appreciate, and then you dumb it down a little for everybody else. Just a few
Yeah.
pages more.
I don't know. I like that stuff. I don't know. I will say I haven't read any newer books in the last like 10 years that have songs and poetry in them where it's just like,
I've read a few. I've definitely read a few.
I haven't
Not
read
always
any
done
yet.
well, but some
Not
done
yet.
well. Yeah.
I
Well,
feel
I
like
mean-
today. Go ahead, Isaac.
Yeah, if you're an indie author today, you're doing the poetry and songs, and your fantasy, you're really cutting open your veins and showing people your blood. If you're not good at that, it's gonna show, and everyone's gonna be like, oh man.
Here's a way that I've seen some do it that does work is if it's just quickly what they use to open a chapter, something
Mhm.
small, and that's so. If you try to do it mid chapter as an indie author, yeah, you're in hot water because we're.
You know what it would remind? You know what it reminds me of if they were to do this today outside of like a because like Tolkien makes sense because I feel like at least today we have so much context, so we understand why their songs and like Tom Bombadil just starts singing a song. It's skippity doo ya. Like it's like, oh, okay, this is just Tolkien doing Tolkien things. If someone did that in a book in 2025, it would be like you're listening to a pop song and then all of a sudden Ludacris comes in for 50 seconds into the song and then he goes back to the pop song. You know those types of songs I'm talking about on the radio? It's like you're listening to like Halsey or something or like Katy Perry and then all of a sudden it's just like, what's a rapper I can name that's not controversial anymore?
Good luck.
Shit, I don't know.
Yeah,
Insert rapper
exactly
that you're not offended by anymore. It, like just comes into this, like Snoop Dogg just comes into the song and he's just like doing his thing for like 80 seconds in the song, and then it goes back to the Halsey or Katy Perry song. That's how it is to me. It's just like, whoa, where did we just like left the page and went somewhere else for a bit?
Yeah.
I usually end up thinking you're not being edgy. I'm bored, or I'm annoyed, or I'm jarred. Yeah, it doesn't work. Not usually. Like you said, Tolkien, it worked, but that's because we know, it's
yeah. Like if I was reading Tolkien's book for the first time, it's a brand new book. Would I have liked it? It's hard for me to say because like when I read those books, I was young and I thought they were cool. I was like, whoa, you could put a poem in the middle of a book, and it doesn't like derail the context of the chapter or the narrative. Like that's cool.
Well, okay. Here's a hot take question then, kind of along those lines. We don't have a slide for this, but on the theme of things that were classics or that we loved that if someone today just opened it and started reading it or watched it, let's take a classic movie that for our generation was pivotal, but some Gen Z would look at it now and say it's not actually that good.
You think?
You know
It's
any of
like
those?
things that have
Napoleon
aged
Dynamite,
poorly.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's something
Napoleon
that's aged really
Dynamite.
poorly? That's absolutely.
It's a great one. Yeah, that one
Classic,
would definitely be
but yeah.
considered cringe. As a book though,
Well,
what's
let's
a
go
book
book or movie. Let's go a little broad here.
with
Yeah.
books? I'm trying to
Hank the Cowdog, maybe. When I was a kid, I read a lot of Hank the Cowdog.
Captain Underpants.
He's
not been-
Underpants is
not-
still popular.
Yeah.
My younger brothers read that.
Oh, that's
Yeah. I don't know.
Magic Treehouse?
Harry Potter.
Magic
Here
Treehouse,
we
probably.
Magic Treehouse, yeah. Harry Potter, though, I don't feel like aged.
I have a confession. I have a hot take confession. Jar Jar is my favorite thing when I was a kid.
Oh, you
What?
My absolute favorite.
That he's like the
When I saw
Antichrist of
episode
Star
2,
Wars.
When I saw episode 2, I was so disappointed. He was in the beginning and he didn't show up again. I was
You're
you're
doing this to me.
No, I'm telling you the truth. I had a Jar Jar doll. I would chew on his ear.
I don't believe you.
No, I'm telling you the truth. I had the Jar Jar stuff. I had the watch. Do you see on memes? I had the watch. His mouth opens.
Tim, has he actually seen the Jar Jar Binks is your favorite character?
No, he's not. When I was a kid, he was the
coolest. That's different. When you're a kid, even
today, I have a soft spot for Jar Jar. George shouldn't have. Though. He should not have folded. I bet you in episode 2 in the Droid Factory, Jar Jar was at the Droid Factory in the first draft, and it was going to be amazing.
I'm all for Darth Jar Jar.
Darth Jar Jar.
Absolutely. Yeah. Come on, Secret Sith Lord the whole time.
Yep. Misa ruined the whole movie.
Misa, I believe you.
He's the one who actually put forward the motion that made Palpatine Emperor.
Misa propose.
Yeah, that's his dark side as it gets.
Jar Jar is no. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, no.
Literally,
the original pitch for Jar Jar. I collect the art books for things because I like animation and art and things like that. The episode 1 art book has a lot devoted to Jar Jar because they spent a lot of time making Jar Jar. And the original pitch was he was going to be a silent character like Chewbacca, but
that would have been much better.
More Charlie Chaplin. So that was the original pitch.
Still comic relief.
Still comic relief, but more Charlie Chaplin kind of comic relief. Not like funny voice, run around, scream. No, he was going to be more set piece kind of stuff. But
yeah, I'm going to be honest, man. His saving grace was the introduction of Darth Maul.
Mm.
And
Jar Jar introduced to Darth Maul.
No, just that movie. The movie that the Phantom Menace introduced Jar Jar, but it also introduced
Jar Jar comes like, Misa, I think there's this guy. He's got weird face, horns.
And whiny Anakin. I mean, I loved the actor. I actually thought he did a really good job, but I just can't unsee it's working. It's working.
This is pod racing.
Yeah.
This is pod racing.
Poor kid, but yeah, that was there were some rough moments for sure.
We watched episode 1. I watched it for the first time in 15 years, a couple years ago. And I laughed for maybe a full 5 minutes.
I'm surprised it wasn't more. I mean,
near the end of the film, when they're getting ready for the big battle, they have that Gungan on the top of that head, and he says, "They're coming." And then Anakin's looking up at the camera. He's just this shot. It was the simplest shot, just looking down at just green grass. He's looking up like this. He says, "All right," and he runs away. I laughed for 5 minutes because I thought that was the dumbest thing I'd ever seen in my life, and I forgot it was there.
Have you guys seen this? Have you guys seen the Dobby?
I have. Yeah.
No.
Darth Dobby as Darth Maul. It's the scene. Just look it up. Look it up on YouTube after.
It's
Anyone who hasn't seen this yet, it's stupidly funny. Yeah. It works. Yeah.
Well, those are our hot takes. I hope everyone enjoyed those.
Yeah. That was
I will defend Gungans. I will. to my dying
those
breath, I'll defend them. In that movie, when they went to the casino planet, they had the rat race giant things.
You're
I was
bringing
disappointed
Last
because
Jedi into this. You're not helping your case.
Last Jedi, because I was disappointed because I thought it was going to be pod racers, but it wasn't. It was rat things. Then they didn't have a Hutt in charge of the casino.
The Last
And
Jedi.
They could have had
Menace.
a Hutt in charge of the casino, and his interpreter could have been a funny Gungan. That would have been
missed opportunity. Okay,
that would have been amazing.
That's fair.
There's a lot of missed opportunities with that particular film.
Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah, there were parts I liked. There were some.
I think it is 40% away from being good.
Okay,
40%.
I think 40%, but the design and everything, it's a lot, but I mean, it's not that much in the grand scheme of things. They could have fixed it with just a couple more months of rewrites.
It's like, if they would just make this thing like 40% better, it would be viable.
Just 40% better.
Could you imagine
that's for perfect. That's for perfect. For passable, 25% better.
Imagine if you got that as a review for your book. This would have been okay if it was 40%.
Yeah, I was
break my heart.
Me too. And I was about to say the Arsonist would have been such a good book if it had just been like 40% better.
I mean,
that
is
I
like 60% loved this book, but the 40% of me that just didn't stand it.
I want that should be Isaac's book review. I loved 60% of this book,
and
that's almost all of it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean that's legit. That's literally a 3-star review. That hurts, and yeah. And you haven't even gotten to the actual criticism yet, and you're just saying no, 40% is trash, and the other 60%, let's pull that down to a 55, maybe a strong 49. Actually, that is probably what I would give The Last Jedi. I'm going to give The Last Jedi a strong
49.
I give
it's trash. I hated that movie.
From 0 to 100.
Yeah.
Okay. Last Jedi, I would give it. I think I give it 37.
I like Monte.
Yeah.
This would be that's like fertilizer if it smelled better and didn't come from the wrong end of a bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that bad of a smell. It's not that bad. It's better than other horses are bad. Cows aren't that bad.
Yeah. Anyways, there we go. Those are our hot takes for the night. Oh man, that was fun. Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, we are coming up on 2.5 hours. You are, I think, the second longest we've had someone on. So that's
I don't know. I love it. It's been fun. I appreciate you guys being here. I'm like super happy about all the people that tune in to support it and
yeah.
What I tried to read all the comments I could, but
yeah, it's half the fun and half the challenge. I love that. I love it's just the book community in general, but people want to meet the authors. There's this great community that hops in these chats all the time. It's wonderful. So thank you everyone for showing up.
Yeah, hopefully I was able to share enough without, deterring anybody from wanting to read the books.
I don't think there was some great pitches in there, along with a whole lot of I'm not going to tell you anything, but it's great. Now they really.
But this Saturday we can find out everything.
There you go.
That's true.
Yeah, very so true. Everyone, check out the Arsonist coming, the second edition with that amazing cover coming out on the 3rd on Saturday. Saturday, May 3rd. I keep forgetting when. Oh my gosh, April flew by way too fast. Anyways, so everybody, get the Arsonist May 3rd. And Tyler, thank you so much for coming. I believe we already have the link to it in the YouTube description. If we don't, I will add it right after.
No problem.
So thanks everyone for coming. Thanks for joining the chat. Be sure to follow Tyler everywhere you can, but I believe X is probably the easiest spot. I think I gave.
I'm really only active on X and Instagram.
There we go. So X and Instagram. Yeah, exactly. I see you there too. Yeah. So give us a like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And you can find both you can find both Isaac and myself on X as well. So yeah, give us a follow. We're always here to chat.
Yes, please follow us, please.
Okay, everybody, have an awesome night. We're gonna go off and this stream. So let's do that